Chapter 1685. Portia turned to look at Samira and then at Chen Zhao. When Samira looked at Chen Zhao, there was some anger in his eyes. As expected, his boss was also related to this woman. Samira couldn't change seats, so he could only sit down again. However, his eyes were still filled with anger when he looked at Chen Zhao. Along the way, Samira kept arguing with Chen Zhao. Portia was glad that she wasn't sitting between them. In fact, it was only Samira who was arguing. On the other hand, Chen Zhao was calm. From start to finish, the two didn't say a word. Of course, their flight was very peaceful this time. There were no more accidents. When the flight arrived in Los Angeles, it was already 10 at night. "Where do you live? I'll take you home." Chen Zhao finally got in his car. Portia hesitated, but still got into Chen Zhao's car. After sending Portia back to her place, Chen Zhao drove home. "Hey, West, I'm going back to Los Angeles." "President, did you have anything to do with the explosion on the artificial island under the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge in New Orleans?" "I didn't cause it." Chen Zhao told him what had happened in a simple manner. "Then last night, an abandoned town west of New Orleans was flattened. I was the one who sent a demon back to hell. The mastermind is Satanism. It's also my main reason for going to New Orleans this time. Can we report this to the anti-terrorism department?" "No need," Chen Zhao said. "Don't let anyone outside the organization know." "Got it." Chen Zhao didn't want the anti-terrorism department to know, because Chen Zhao's threat level was already big enough. If Chen Zhao's threat level increased again, then their previous plan against the supernatural organization might be useless. Then they would have to change their plan. It would be disadvantageous to the supernatural organization. After all, Chen Zhao's existence was a huge threat to the anti-terrorism department. Chen Zhao didn't want to care about the anti-terrorism department or their director, Mansari. But if Mansari started targeting Chen Zhao, the tit-for-tat between them might turn into a war. If the situation escalated, it wouldn't be good for anyone. Both Chen Zhao and the supernatural organization hoped that the situation would remain like this. When Chen Zhao returned home, it was already midnight. Little Jerlin and little Larissa were already asleep. Fei Lai waited for Chen Zhao to arrive home. "Darling, did you miss me?" Chen Zhao couldn't wait to be intimate with Fei Lai. Just then, Belial's voice appeared in Chen Zhao's mind again. "I don't think you've used this move before. Let's try it next time." "Belial, are you the king of sloth or the king of sex? Why did it always appear at this time? Can we do it another time?" Chen Zhao complained. "Does it matter? This affects the mood, you know." "All right, I'll wait for you to finish. I'll discuss it with you later." Chen Zhao was working on Fei Lai. He thought that he could devote himself wholeheartedly now. Belial's voice rang out again. "I heard you did Lucifer a big favor. Didn't I say to discuss it later? I'm not discussing posture with you. That won't do either." "All right, I'll wait for you to finish." Chen Zhao didn't stop until Fei Lai was exhausted. "Is it okay now?" Belial's voice sounded on time. "Do you have a stopwatch?" Chen Zhao was speechless. "How many positions haven't you tried with me? Let's continue. How did you know about this?" "My foundation is all over hell. If I want to know, there's nothing I don't know. Even if it's something that happens around Lucifer. Normally, I won't spy on what happens around him. After all, he's stronger than me. I have to maintain enough respect for him. Then why did you suddenly have a sudden impulse to spy on him this time?" "I had no choice." His subordinate kept screaming, "Damn human." My foundation seeped into his brain, and I knew what happened to him. Chen Zhao was curious about what foundation Belial was talking about. "You want to know what foundation is?" "No." Even if he did, he wouldn't admit it. "Since you want to know, I'll tell you." Belial didn't seem to understand Chen Zhao's words. "It's an extension of my power. It's like air. It's everywhere. Unless it's a demon king on the same level as me, other demons will be affected by my foundation. If I want to, I can order them to do anything for me, even if it means suicide." "What about me? If I enter hell, will your foundation be able to affect me?" "You're an anomaly, but it's because you're an anomaly that you're especially obvious in my senses. Are you interested in what I've done? Can't you see what I've done through my eyes? Do I need to go through my foundation? I can only sense it when you're having sex with a woman, because that's how we're connected." Chen Zhao didn't know how he should face this either. "When will you come to hell? Or I can summon you now." I'm starting to miss you. We can try a new position. Chun Zhao was shocked. Fei Lai, who'd been resting her arm on his chest, opened her eyes slightly. What's wrong? Nothing, just a nightmare. Chun Zhao comforted her. Fei Lai rolled her eyes. She retracted her arm and turned to go back to sleep. No, I'm going to rest at home for a few days, Chun Zhao said to Belia. If you want, find a banana yourself. I don't need inferior products. Chun Zhao was speechless. Is your foundation the demonic realm? Yes and no. What do you mean? Simply put, it's something more advanced. If you come to hell next time, we can discuss this while doing business. Why do I have to wait until I go to hell? Can't we do it now? Our connection is weakening again. If you're willing to hug that woman next to you again, we can continue talking. Forget it. Let's talk next time. I'm going to sleep. Finally, I'll help you sleep. No. Chun Zhao didn't even have a chance to resist. There was only one last thought in his mind. Wasn't the power of a demon king unable to affect the real world? Then Chun Zhao completely lost consciousness. When Chun Zhao opened his eyes again, it was already noon the next day. You're awake? Get up and eat. Fei Lai walked into the bedroom and saw Chun Zhao standing up. Chapter 1686. Hi, Mr. Chun. Long time no see. Where have you been these days? Kalon came to Mingyue Villa. New Orleans, Chun Zhao said. Let's go. Let's spar for a bit. By then, Kalon had already put on his boxing suit. New Orleans? I heard that many big things have happened in New Orleans recently. First, the explosion on the artificial island at Lake Pontchartrain, then the serial murders. Kalon was very interested in this topic. Mr. Chun, do you know any inside stories that haven't been reported in the news? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. But I won't tell you. Disappointed, Kalon bumped fists with Chun Zhao. Then Chun Zhao started his usual punching routine. I haven't seen you for a few days. You've improved a lot in using magic. Did you go on a mission again? Mr. Chun, I'm not alone, Kalon said. I know 2 spiritualists and went with them. Are you sure it's not a trap? Definitely not. Tell me their names. I'll investigate for you. Kalon had known since the last incident. He already knew that Chun Zhao was very powerful in LA. He was also willing to trust Chun Zhao. Kalon told Chun Zhao the names of the 2 spiritualists and immediately told him about them. Just then, an old car drove into Mingyue Villa. Portia walked into the villa. Miss Fei Lai, hello. Portia, hello. Please sit. Where's the owner? He's boxing on the beach. Portia walked to the front yard and saw that Chun Zhao was sparring with someone. To be honest, when Portia came to Mingyue Villa for the first time, she was really shocked by the extremely luxurious villa. This was her second time here, and she still couldn't hide her shock. Of course, what surprised her the most were the beasts in Chun Zhao's house. She'd been someone's personal assistant before. That rich man also liked pets. There were 2 leopards at home, but the previous employer's leopards were kept in a cage. Chun Zhao's beasts, on the other hand, were all free to run around. Most importantly, they were actually with the child. Portia felt that Chun Zhao and Fei Lai were definitely the most careless parents. No matter how tame a beast was, it was still a beast. Weren't they afraid that the pets would suddenly go crazy and hurt the children? Portia, you can go play on the beach or take a dip in the sea. Oh, right, I have diving equipment and oxygen tanks at home. Portia was also a little tempted. However, she was also worried that she would be neglecting her duty. Let's go. Just think of it as accompanying me. Chun won't blame you. Fei Lai could see that Portia was tempted. All right, for Portia, diving was an expensive activity. After all, in some coastal projects, diving for half an hour would cost more than $200. Chun Zhao's house had the most advanced and expensive diving equipment. Portia had been worried that there wouldn't be 2 sets of diving equipment for women. However, when Fei Lai opened the storage compartment, a voice suddenly rang out. Only then did Portia realize that her worries were completely unnecessary. There were about 10 sets of diving equipment and oxygen cylinders neatly arranged in the cabin. Chun Zhao didn't need this equipment. Fei Lai wasn't the only one who could use the equipment. Usually, when Chun Zhao's friends came over to play, it would come in handy when they wanted to dive. Portia was actually a beginner in diving. She had only dived once in her life. However, she could still recognize how expensive all this diving equipment was. Her previous employer had one too. He'd shown it off to her before. Choose a mouthpiece that you're comfortable with. Faylai was a member of the coastal rescue team. Plus, she had a professional diving license. Thus, she knew the precautions for diving very well. After explaining a few things to Portia, she took Portia into the sea. Actually, diving wasn't difficult. At least, amateur divers didn't need a license. Only deep diving required a professional diving license. As long as it wasn't more than 20 meters deep, it was basically safe. Of course, Faylai wouldn't take Portia deep diving. This was an undamaged area. Therefore, the underwater scenery here was exceptionally beautiful. Portia was almost mesmerized by the picturesque underwater scenery. It was too beautiful. Schools of fish and colorful coral reefs. Just then, a black shadow loomed over Portia's head. At first, Portia didn't notice it. But suddenly, the schools of fish around her disappeared. When they looked up, they saw a huge fish belly above their heads. Portia was so scared that her mouthpiece fell out. Seawater instantly poured in her mouth. Faylai hurriedly picked up the mouthpiece and stuffed it into Portia's mouth. Faylai waved her hand and held Portia's hand, comforting her uneasiness and fear. By then, Old Juan had already circled around and was in front of them. Portia was so scared that she wanted to run. Faylai pulled her back. Old Juan was already in front of them. Faylai reached out to touch his body. Portia was stunned. This was the most ferocious beast in the sea. Faylai wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she took the initiative to touch it. Oh my God, this great white shark didn't attack Faylai. Faylai gestured at Portia, asking her if she wanted to come and try. Portia gave it a wide berth. She didn't want to be close to a great white shark. Faylai waved her hand. The shark swam away and didn't disturb them again. After traveling for more than 40 minutes and using up 3/4 of the oxygen, Faylai brought Portia back to the yacht. Miss Faylai, aren't you afraid of that great white shark? Even though they were back on the yacht, Portia was still scared. That big guy won't hurt people, Faylai said calmly. But it's a shark. It's our child. Portia was speechless. She didn't think that an adult great white shark was a child. Great white sharks were definitely the sharks that killed the most people in the shark family. Apart from tiger sharks, no other sharks could compete with it. They might not like the taste of human flesh, but they liked to bite people. After returning to the villa, Portia's emotions gradually calmed down. Chun Zhao was already there. He glanced at the two girls. Did you go diving? Yes. Portia was scared by Old Guan. Chun Zhao glanced at Portia. Pack up. We're going out later. Okay, boss. You're going out? Are you coming back for dinner? Faylai asked. I should be back soon. I'm going to sign the contract. Steven, Rasfa, and I will sign the box office share and number of showtimes with Bath Corporation. Chapter 1687. Huh? Steven and Rasfa aren't here yet? Chun Zhao sat in the conference room of Bath Corporation. Steven had told Chun Zhao to sign the contract, but he was late. I hope it won't affect the signing, Chun Zhao mumbled. Portia stood beside Chun Zhao. She looked at Chun Zhao's unsightly posture. Boss, shouldn't you be more serious? After all, this was a formal place, not a roadside stall. Chun Zhao leaning against the chair like this was too unsightly. Portia was confused. What contract was Chun Zhao here sign? She knew about Bath Corporation, the largest theater company in North America. It could even be called the largest theater chain in the world. Portia was curious. What business did Chun Zhao have to cooperate with Bath Corporation? Just then, Kefui Bus walked in. Kefui Bus walked in with a domineering attitude. Her expression was even colder. Her gaze was like a sword as she pointed at Portia. Who are you? Security? Get her out of here. Wait. Portia hurriedly waved her hands and turned to look at Chun Zhao. She hoped that Chun Zhao could explain the situation. I don't know her. Chun Zhao turned his head away. Portia was dumbfounded. How could you trick your own assistant like that? Suddenly, Kefui Bus laughed again. Are you kidding, miss? Are you Chen's personal assistant? Portia's emotions were really high. She felt like she was about to collapse. Both of them seemed to be very unreliable people. Both Kefui Bus and Chun Zhao were very unreliable. Miss Kefui, Call me Bus. Bus, Steven and Rasfa aren't here yet, so we might have to delay the signing, Chun Zhao said. No need to wait for them, Kefwi Bus said. Kefwi Base said, the two of them have already brought the power of attorney. You can be fully responsible for signing the contract. Chun Zhao was dumbfounded. The power of attorney they'd given him was in your hands? What were Steven and Rasfa doing? Chun Zhao picked up the power of attorney and looked. Then he dialed Steven's number. Steven, you and Rasfa aren't coming. We're busy, so we can't go. Anyway, the details have already been confirmed. You just need to sign now. Fuck, Chun Zhao cursed. Portia felt that her boss was too unreliable. He was talking on the phone in front of his business partner, and he was so outspoken. But then he looked at Kefwi Base. Kefwi Bath was still smiling. She didn't seem to blame or angry at all. Their relationship seemed to be very good, very familiar. Chun Zhao put down the phone and shrugged at Kefwi Base. Okay, Buzz, where's the contract? Let's sign the contract. Kefwi Buzz placed the contract before Chun Zhao, her eyes fixed on Chun Zhao. Without even looking at the contract, Chun Zhao signed his name. Aren't you going to look at the contract? No need, Chun Zhao said confidently. You won't scam me for a few $1 million. Even if Kefwi Base wanted to trick Chun Zhao and tamper with the contract, it would only be a few $1 million at most. But the price was that the Bath Group's reputation would be ruined. If a company lost credibility, then the company would face more than tens of millions of dollars in losses. Kefwi Base had a net worth of several billion US dollars, most of which was Base Corporation shares. Therefore, she would definitely not do such a loss-making transaction. Of course, there was another important reason. Their friendship. Chun Zhao didn't like the kind where he signed a contract with a friend and a bunch of lawyers would read it. Back then, when Chun Zhao, Steven, and Rasfa had negotiated a contract, they just randomly drafted a document and then signed it. They didn't bring a lawyer or even an assistant. Moreover, they negotiated and signed the contract while all of them were drunk. If it was just a business cooperation, there would be no friendship. For example, when Chun Zhao ordered a super yacht from Seagate Yachts, Chun Zhao had Alex read the contract from beginning to end to make sure there were no clauses that were disadvantageous to him. Portia felt that her boss was too ridiculous. Who signed a contract like this? Even if he didn't bring a lawyer, he should at least read the contract himself. If you're lazy, I can do it for you. Who would just take out a contract and sign it? Chun Zhao pushed the contract to Kefwi Base. Kefwi Base also signed her name. Chun, to celebrate our cooperation, shouldn't you treat me to a meal? Kefwi Base didn't care that there was a third person in the meeting room. She looked at Chun Zhao teasingly. Base, I have other plans tonight. Let's arrange another time. Okay, let's do it this weekend. Don't stand me up. As if she didn't understand Chun Zhao's hidden meaning, Kefwi Base directly set a time with Chun Zhao. Okay, Portia, remember to remind me about the meal with Base this weekend. Yes, boss. If you don't want to come, don't push the responsibility to this cute girl, Kefwi Base reminded. Chun Zhao was speechless. He really did plan to do that. When the weekend came, he'd use Portia not telling him as an excuse to forget about the meal. Portia stared at Chun Zhao in shock. She realized that Chun Zhao really did plan to do that. He was using her as an excuse. Of course not. Even if Portia doesn't remember, I'll remember it. Chun Zhao smiled awkwardly. Kefwi Base had exposed his plan in front of him. Even if Chun Zhao forgot, he still had to go. It was Portia's first time seeing how shameless her boss was. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. I won't disturb your work. Are you that unwilling to chat with me? Kefwi Base stared at Chun Zhao, resentment in her eyes. Of course not. I just don't want to disturb your work. Even I'm not afraid. What are you afraid of? Actually, I have something else. Steven and Rasfa, those two old things, are definitely waiting for news. I need to tell them. Something that can be solved with a phone call, Kefwi Base mumbled. Chun Zhao stood up helplessly. It's better to say this face to face. Okay. Don't forget about the weekend. Chun Zhao escaped from the Base Corporation's headquarters in a sorry state. Portia was filled with resentment toward Chun Zhao. The guy completely treated her as a scapegoat. Get in the car. What are you waiting for? I'll go home myself, I'm not planning on sending you home. Don't think too much. Your car is still in my house. I'm taking you home, and you could drive back yourself. Chapter 1688. Portia was annoyed. She would throw a tantrum with Chun Zhao sometimes. But as his personal assistant, she would always be the weaker one. After Chun Zhao parked the car, he watched Portia get into her own car. Portia, you better get another car. As my assistant, you're driving a car like this. You're embarrassing me. Portia looked at the row of luxury cars in Chun Zhao's garage. She couldn't help but feel excited. Was Chun Zhao going to give her a car? Or maybe lend it to her? I'll lend you money to buy a new car. I hope you'll at least drive a brand new car next time. Portia was disappointed. Boss, my car is secondhand, but it's 80% new. Chun Zhao went up and kicked the front of the car. With a clang, the bumper fell off. Are you sure it's 80% new? Portia wanted to cry. Damn, that secondhand car shop played me. She had no idea that Chun Zhao's kick was completely unreasonable. Blood Mary, are you in Los Angeles now? Yes. Can you come pick me up? In this world, there were very few people who could be picked up by Blood Mary personally. Coincidentally, this old man from China was one of them. Zhang Tianyi had a goatee. He was 120 years old, but his hair was still thick and black. He wore a suit and round-framed sunglasses. He held a pair of jade balls in his right hand. No one could have imagined that the old man in front of them was one of the most powerful figures in the world of spirits. Dragon Tiger Mountain's celestial master sect, Zhang Tianyi. What was Zhang Tianyi's status in the world? He'd seen more world leaders than the current leaders of China. Most of the time, it was the world leaders who begged to see him. For example, the people sent by the Japanese government had almost knelt in front of Zhang Tianyi's house. Zhang Tianyi had tried to chase them away with a broom several times, but they were too shameless. I won't leave even if you chase me away. Kill me if you can. Anyway, that was how it was. Behind him were two men in black suits and sunglasses. They looked like bodyguards. In fact, they were all Zhang Tianyi's disciples. Dao Yi, take a picture for me, Zhang Tianyi ordered. Dao Yi took the phone and was about to take a picture of Zhang Tianyi. Wait, this angle is not good. Keep some distance, or you'll make my face bigger. Not long after, the 23rd generation Blood Mary arrived. However, a large number of FBI officers also came with them, and they immediately blocked the exit. Zhang Tianyi's grand disciples, Dao Yi and Dao Air, immediately assumed a fighting stance. What are you guys doing? Dao Air Chong was big and burly, but he was also a simple-minded person. He thought the policemen were here to harm them. At this time, the 23rd generation Blood Mary walked over. Stop. They mean no harm. Zhang Tianyi waved his hand and walked toward the 23rd Blood Mary. Blood Mary, Dao Master. The two of them solemnly cupped their hands and bowed to each other. Then, Zhang Tianyi dropped his solemn posture and put one hand on the shoulder of the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Blood Mary, why did you call so many people over? I didn't call them. They listened in on our conversation and knew that you came to Los Angeles, so they all came over. Blood Mary, he said helplessly. She turned to look at the two young people behind Zhang Tianyi. Are they your grand disciples or great-grand disciples? They are Dao Yi and Dao Air, Zhang Tianyi introduced casually. He was the one who came up with these two Taoist names. Zhang Tianyi was from the Tian generation, and his Taoist name was Tian, which meant that he was Taoist Tianyi. Dao Yi. Blood Mary was stunned. He's related to Dao Yi and Xiuhua. Dao Yi and Xiuhua were of the same generation as them. Back then, they could be said to be the most supreme beings in the entire spiritual world. Now, only the two of them were left. The others of the same generation could not escape death. Dao Yi and Xiuhua's grandson. Coincidentally, our Dragon Tiger Mountain has reached the Dao generation, so we gave him his grandfather's Taoist name. Is it because you're lazy? The 23rd generation Blood Mary asked suspiciously. Let's change the topic. Zhang Tianyi looked at the little girl behind Blood Mary Mana. This is little Mary, right? I saw it more than 10 years ago. Greetings, Dao Master. Mana Blood Mary didn't dare to act like a princess in front of Zhang Tianyi. Although Zhang Tianyi was younger than his grandmother by a generation. However, they were of the same generation. Moreover, she had heard from her grandmother that Zhang Tianyi was stronger than her, the supreme existence of Taoism. He had vanquished countless demons and devils in his life. Mana, you go with Tao 1 and Tao 2. I'll ride with Tao, Sovereign, said the 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation Blood Mary got into the same car, and the 23rd generation was the one driving. Blood Mary, are you sure you won't take me to the ditch? As long as I open my sky eye, I can see through the darkness. Are you still afraid that my old eyes won't work? 23rd generation said, as if it was a fact. Zhang Tianyi could only buckle his seatbelt. Have you agreed to help the Japanese? I'm thinking about it, Zhang Tianyi said. There's a kid in Los Angeles. He's about the same age as your grand disciple, but he's already on par with us. 23rd generation said, he's from the Han territory. Do you know which sect he's from? Are you sure? Zhang Tianyi's eyes flashed. I've met him before. I can only confirm that he's from the strengthening sect. His body is almost invincible. There's also a dragon head in his house. He must have slaughtered it recently. He's quite bold. Isn't he afraid that the dragons will come to him? I don't know what he's thinking. To be honest, even people like Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation, even if they had the means to slaughter a dragon, even if they killed a dragon, they wouldn't dare to brazenly place the dragon head in front of their house. That would be a provocative act. Take me to see him. I know about the techniques of the sects in China. Zhang Tianyi also wanted to see this genius. After all, their generation was already old. If they didn't have a pillar, they would probably have to wait for another few hundred years. And there might not even be one person at their level in a few hundred years. Their generation could be said to be competing with each other. If there could be another top figure among the younger generation in China, it would be immeasurable for the inheritance of the spiritual world in China. It could even strengthen China's position as the leader of the spiritual world. Although China was recognized as the leader of the spiritual world, but there were still many challenges. If there could be another peerless master at the Shangqing level, it would be an exciting thing for the entire spiritual world in China. Chapter 1689. In the morning, a few uninvited guests came to Chen Zhao's house. Blood Mary was still as arrogant as ever. Brother Dao Brother Dao that's the rude guy I told you about. Help me teach him a lesson later. Dao and Dao weren't hot-headed girls like Blood Mary. Ever since they'd arrived at Minghua Villa, they'd felt that this place wasn't normal. Moreover, the 23rd generation and their grandmaster all had serious expressions on their faces. The 23rd generation even looked a little frightened, because the current Chen Zhao was completely different from the last two times she'd seen him. Zhang Tianyi had thought that he was already the most powerful person in the world. But today, he finally understood what it meant by there is always someone better than you out there. But then again, he wouldn't be surprised if the person was an old man who lived in seclusion in the mountains. Huaxiao was vast and full of resources. There were countless talented people. It wasn't strange to see one or two old monsters occasionally. But now, he realized that the person was actually a young man in his 20s. So young that it made his hair stand on end. Even Dao, he was 3 or 4 years older than Chen Zhao. But now, this young man was on equal footing with him. No, even during the confrontation just now. Zhang Tianyi and Blood Mary had worked together to barely stop Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, nice to meet you. Zhang Tianyi cupped his hands and smiled. Sir, how should I address you? One shouldn't hit a smiling person. Apart from the confrontation when they'd met, the old man had shown enough respect. I'm Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi smiled. Mr. Chen, you have traces of the Qingyi sex techniques on you. But as far as I know, the Qingyi sex techniques can't reach this level. Have you cultivated other techniques? I've inherited the Qingyi sex techniques. Chen Zhao didn't deny it. After all, Chen Zhao had benefited from the Qingyi sect before, so it was natural for him to promote the Qingyi sect. Even if Chen Zhao wasn't the Qingyi sect's disciple, he couldn't say that he had nothing to do with the Qingyi sect. If Chen Zhao said that, he would be too heartless. Chen Zhao didn't plan to burn the bridge after crossing it. But because I'm lacking in techniques, I have to figure it out on my own after reaching ultimate. Plus some miraculous encounters, I've made some progress. Fuck, you call this progress? Do you have any misunderstandings about the phrase small success? Zhang Tianyi didn't know how to respond. However, he didn't doubt Chun Zhao's answer. Although Longhu Mountain had a complete set of techniques, there was no instruction on breaking through to the Shanqing realm. Similarly, Zhang Tianyi had only managed to break through to the Prime Clarity realm after some fortuitous encounters. Not only him, but even the 23rd generation next to him felt the same. However, Chun Zhao's cultivation was a little too high. Mr. Chun, how about we spar? Forget it. Old Mr. Zhang, if you want to fight with me, you'd better comprehend the spiritual energy of heaven and earth first. If you haven't comprehended the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, I'm afraid you won't be able to hurt me even if I stand still. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation both gasped. One had to admit that Chun Zhao's words were too arrogant. Insanely arrogant. I can't even hurt him if I stand still? Both of them were the top spiritualists in the world. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was a peerless expert. But now, Chun Zhao was saying that they couldn't hurt him even if he stood still. What do you mean by spiritual energy of heaven and earth? The two didn't argue with Chun Zhao. It was an established fact that Chun Zhao was stronger than them. But Chun Zhao's words clearly showed that he was in a higher realm than them. Miss 23rd, can I borrow your alternate space for a while? My pleasure. The 23rd generation instantly activated the alternate space. He directly excluded everyone else. Only Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi were included. One had to admit that the 23rd generation was very good at using this spell. Even Chun Zhao was far inferior to the 23rd generation. Being close to the spiritual energy of the world is something I comprehended from a fairy. Although the fairies are not strong individually, and can even be said to be very weak for people of our level, they have an innate talent for being close to the spiritual energy of the world. Chun Zhao suddenly opened his eyes. Instantly, Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation felt that the elements around them were sucked dry. Then, Chun Zhao cast the giant miracle god. A 5-meter-tall giant appeared before Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation. The two of them sucked in a cold breath. Chun Zhao's aura was completely different from before. Before, Chun Zhao's aura had already overshadowed their combined strength. But now, Chun Zhao was more than 10 times weaker than them. In other words, it's controlling the power of heaven and earth, Chun Zhao said. I mainly train my body, so the way I can get close to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is to guide it into my body. It's similar to the unity of heaven and man in novels. As long as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth doesn't dry up, my power won't dry up. Is this your strongest state right now? Chun Zhao shook his head. No, I have other ways to increase my power. If I use them all, I can increase my power by several times on top of this. How's your destructive power in your strongest state? It should be easy to destroy a small town. I can change the geological structure in a small area. As for defense, last time, I was slightly injured in the center of a 5,000-ton explosion. That's about my limit. The two of them sucked in a deep breath again. They had already evaluated Chun Zhao's combat ability. But after hearing Chun Zhao's honest explanation, they were still astonished. With your current abilities, I'm afraid you're almost at the level of the legendary gods, right? There's no comparison in the real world, so I'm not sure. Mr. Chun, do you know that the seal on the Stone of Slaughter in Japan has been broken? I heard that. My subordinates plan to go there and take a look, Chun Zhao said. It said that the fox demon sealed in the Stone of Slaughter also has earth-shattering power. I think you're not that far from it. You want me to fight with that fox demon? Of course, if you are willing to compete, there should be no one who can stop you. The risk is not small. Moreover, it is not good to take the initiative to break the seal. However, according to my estimation, the seal on the Stone of Slaughter is about to be broken. Zhang Tianyi said with a profound meaning. 1,000 years ago, the Onmyoji in Japan could seal the fox demon. It's not impossible now, right? Do you think that they were able to seal it on their own? Wasn't it? Back then, the Shinmen from Han also went east to help. That fox demon is probably about the same as the powerful monsters sealed in our country. Chapter 1690. The seal of the Stone of Slaughter didn't matter to Chen Zhao, even if the supernatural organization wanted to accept the mission. However, this mission was not mandatory. If it exceeded the value of the reward, he could just give up. But for the Japanese government, it would be a disaster. According to Zhang Tiany's guess, if the fox demon was as strong as him, the conditions to defeat him were probably similar to Chen Zhao's. In terms of modern weapons, nuclear weapons or super bombs could be used. But using super weapons with shocking destructive power would first cause impact and damage. Secondly, if the fox demon ran to a densely populated area, the two options would be useless. No government could drop a bomb in a densely populated area. So, in the end, he still had to solve it through the spiritual world. That was the most practical way. Chen Zhao thought about it, considering the pros and cons. What can I get if I help? If it was in China, Chen Zhao would have to consider if people would die. But it was in Japan. Chen Zhao didn't plan on doing voluntary work. How much do you want? I don't want money. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Unless the Japanese government asks for $10 billion, but that's impossible. Zhang Tiany also knew that although some things could be solved with money, it was indeed the most ideal result. But Chen Zhao asked for $10 billion right off the bat. It wasn't something the Japanese government could afford. Then what do you want? Don't Japan have 3 holy artifacts? I want that. Kusanagi sword, Yasakani no Magatama, and Yada no Kagami? You're thinking too much. To them, it's the symbol of their Amaterasu god. How can they give it to you? Apart from that, I can't think of anything else, Chen Zhao said, shrugging. To be honest, Chen Zhao also didn't know what to do with the 3 things. But when they invaded China, Japan had taken many things from China. It wasn't too much for him to ask for 1 or 2 national treasures, right? Yes, definitely not. It didn't matter what they were. What was important was the symbolism. If you really want it, I can help you negotiate, Zhang Tiany said. At least we can negotiate for one. Oh, don't tell them I want it, Chen Zhao said. Don't tell anyone that I want it. Chen Zhao was afraid that the Japanese government would regret it and ask him for it. Chen Zhao wasn't a loner. His family and the supernatural society would be affected. Once it involved the dialogue between countries, he would have no right to speak. Therefore, Chen Zhao's idea was to let Zhang Tiany take the blame. He was so keen to convince himself. Most likely, he didn't get any benefits either, even though he didn't care about most of the threats in the world anymore. But Chen Zhao couldn't fight the government head-on. No matter how strong they were, it was impossible for them to go against the government. Unless Chen Zhao wanted to become a mountain king one day. However, it was not easy to be the king of the mountain. Sooner or later, he would become a thorn in the government side. Just like the demon fox Tamamonome from 1,000 years ago. Chen Zhao felt that there shouldn't be anyone on the same level as him in that era. But in the end, it still ended up being sealed. If she chose the same path as him, perhaps Tamamonome's fate was a good example for him. Chen Zhao only wanted to get benefits secretly. He couldn't bear the burden of this mine. Zhang Tiany could handle it. His seniority, his prestige, his influence, and even the Longhu Mountain Celestial Masters sect behind him. All of them could make the Japanese government flinch. In this era's spiritual world, the boundaries between countries were already very blurry. There weren't any battles between spiritualists from different countries like in novels. At least, Chen Zhao had never heard of such a thing. The spiritual world was more like an academic world. The various sects and forces were all institutions of higher learning. There were academic exchanges between them, but there were also conflicts. But most of it was normal competition. He hadn't heard of a country having a powerful treasure and then spiritualists from other countries going there to fight. Of course, the ultimate influence of the spiritual world was still the government. The government was also an existence that no spiritualist could ignore. Chen Zhao was hired by the Supernatural Society and became its president. It was like an academically poor university that needed a professor to be their tutor or dean. The Supernatural Society was also influenced by the government. Also, most of the members of the Supernatural organization were Americans. They admired Chen Zhao, but Chen Zhao couldn't let them betray their country just because of their admiration. Chen Zhao, Zhang Tiany, and 23rd Jin talked a lot. Basically, it was to expand his network. These were the two most powerful spiritualists in the East and West. There were only benefits to being on good terms with them. Even if they couldn't be friends, they didn't want to be enemies. As for whether they could understand the method to get close to the elements, that would depend on their own luck. But Chun Zhao didn't have high hopes for it, because this was Chun Zhao's personal train of thought and method. It might not be suitable for them. They were at the end of their path. Chun Zhao provided his train of thought to them. Whether or not they could walk their own path was their business. 23rd Jin removed the alternate dimension, and the three appeared before everyone. Dao 1, Dao Air, come here. Grandmaster, this is Mr. Chun. He's a very powerful person. Anyway, he's only stronger than me. If you interact with him in the future, don't be rude. Zhang Tianyi didn't speak in a proper manner, but he pointed out Chun Zhao's importance. If I die and you encounter something you can't solve, ask Mr. Chun for help. After all, we're all from China. I think Mr. Chun will give us a discount. Zhang Tianyi's words seemed frivolous, but he was actually pointing out the key points for Dao 1 and Dao Air. The two were surprised by Zhang Tianyi's words, but they definitely wouldn't refute Zhang Tianyi. In their hearts, Zhang Tianyi was their sky. Mr. Chun, if you want to read the books of the Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect, just tell me. Before Chun Zhao could be happy, Zhang Tianyi added, we'll also give you a discount. Uffed. He didn't have the demeanor of an otherworldly master at all. Actually, Zhang Tianyi's meaning was obvious. Helping each other was beneficial for everyone. Zhang Tianyi wasn't asking for a discount. He was implying that they could interact more. If Chun Zhao wanted to read the books of the Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect, he wouldn't have to pay anything. He would owe them a favor. This was Zhang Tianyi's shrewdness. He was completely different from 23rd Jin. 23rd Jin wanted to build a relationship with Chun Zhao and also wanted to get his granddaughter to be his student. On the other hand, Zhang Tianyi wanted to use interaction to tie down this relationship. Chapter 1691. 23rd generation was also in a daze. She also realized that her previous conversation with Chun Zhao was a strategic mistake. She had planned to take advantage of her seniority and force her granddaughter, Mana, to be Chun Zhao's student. But Chun Zhao didn't appreciate it at all. In addition, their first interaction was based on the trade of eating fruits. If Jin 23 had given Chun Zhao the alternate dimension spell without hesitation, Chun Zhao would have died. Chun Zhao would definitely appreciate it. Zhang Tianyi, on the other hand, was different. Although he said it was a transaction, he still had to charge a fee. In reality, he was trying to establish a friendship. Was the Taoist scripture of the Longhu Mountain Celestial Master sect something that just anyone could read? Not to mention that he was an outsider. However, Zhang Tianyi stated that he was willing to open it up to Chun Zhao, as long as Chun Zhao was willing to accept this favor. In that case, their relationship would become even closer in the future. Actually, at their level, they didn't need much money. Who didn't have a plot of land? Zhang Tianyi was just short of asking for half a library card. If Longhu Mountain Celestial Master Sect was in trouble in the future, in that case, Chun Zhao wouldn't just stand by and watch. Of course, it would be best if he didn't return the favor. Chun Zhao would owe him a favor forever. Huaxia's supernatural world was powerful, but it also had its fair share of troubles. For example, the demonic aura of the Demon King from 20 years ago leaked out from a seal. Just the leakage of demonic aura had caused a major incident. In other countries and regions, it was considered common for major incidents to occur once every few hundred years. However, it only happened once every few decades in Huaxia. Moreover, each major event was scarier than the last. Once he lost control, the consequences would be unimaginable. Europe was also a place where major events frequently occurred. Therefore, the 23rd generation also hoped that there would be a sufficiently powerful guardian after his death. It was unknown whether it was fortunate or unfortunate, but in the nearly 150 years of the 23rd generation's life, there had never been a truly significant event in Europe. But according to probability, the older the European region was, the higher the probability of a major event. Without a strong enough guardian, it would be impossible. Thus, when they encountered a major incident, They would often have to rely on their lives to fill in the gap. Chen Zhao wasn't interested in being someone's guardian. If the incident happened in China, as a Chinese, he would be responsible for it. If it happened in LA, Chen Zhao would take action too, because he felt that Los Angeles was his territory. Whoever behaved atrociously here was not giving him face. But if it was somewhere else, Chen Zhao would be asking for something. One wrong step was followed by many more. XCI sighed. His initial attitude was wrong. Subconsciously, she still thought that Chen Zhao was her junior. But in fact, putting aside the age difference, they were not superiors or subordinates, nor were they seniors or juniors. Although Dao Yi and Dao Air were young, they were not arrogant. They were considered the leaders of the Dao generation and were nurtured as successors. It was impossible for them to provoke someone who even Zhang Tianyi admired. He didn't believe that Chen Zhao could reach Zhang Tianyi's level, but they wouldn't express it. Therefore, they were very respectful to him. After talking for a while, everyone bid farewell. Just as he left, Porsche came. Chen Zhao watched as Porsche drove the brand new car. "Boss, this is my new car. What do you think?" Not bad. Accompany Fei Lai at noon. I'm going out. Don't you need me to follow you?" Porsche asked. No need. Chen Zhao was going to the supernatural organization, so it wasn't convenient for Porsche to follow. Chen Zhao drove to the supernatural organization. There weren't many people in the headquarters today. Only a few people were there, and most of them were in the Tower of Trials. Chen Zhao entered West's office. "President." West stood up from his desk. "I have something to tell you." "Huh? What is it?" "Didn't we decide on 3 blood red missions? There might be changes to the Japanese's Stone of Slaughter." "What's wrong?" "I received accurate news that the demon fox sealed in the Stone of Slaughter might be unsealed. It seems to be an irreversible process," Chen Zhao said. "Huh?" West jumped in fright. As someone from the supernatural world, he had heard of the Stone of Slaughter. "Then we'll give up on this mission. Don't get involved. Also, Zhang Tianyi from Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Master Sect will help me negotiate with the Japanese government. If they agree to my conditions, I'll do it." "What conditions?" "I want their 3 legendary divine artifacts." Wes almost choked on his own saliva. Japan's 3 divine weapons were legendary items that resounded like thunder throughout the world. "President, the Japanese government won't agree to it." "I don't plan on helping," Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. "If it's just a small monster, I'll just treat it as a vacation. But it's the legendary demon fox. Even I'll be in great danger. I won't go without any benefits." Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. "Mr. Chen, the Japanese government agreed. They gave us the Yasakani no Magatama." This time, it was Chen Zhao's turn to choke. "They really agreed?" "Yes. I asked to receive it in advance. Otherwise, I won't do it. They're planning to give us the Yasakani no Magatama in advance." Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. Zhang Tianyi had left less than 2 hours ago, but he'd already negotiated? "Mr. Zhang, how did you negotiate? Why did they agree so easily?" "Actually, their original plan was to use the Yasakani no Magatama as my reward. So when I called them, they didn't even think about it and immediately agreed." Chen Zhao was completely speechless. Zhang Tianyi said, "Mr. Chen, you won't regret it, right? I've already agreed to it." Okay, I understand. I'll go once I get the item." Chen Zhao hung up and looked up at West. Scratching his head, he said helplessly, "Get ready. We're going to Japan this month." "No way. The Japanese government is really going to give us the divine artifact as reward?" West's face was also filled with disbelief. "It can't be. Is the Japanese government really going to use the divine weapon as a reward?" West's face was also filled with disbelief. When he'd made this request, he didn't think that the Japanese government would agree. But Chen Zhao didn't think that the Japanese government would agree to it. In the end, the Japanese government had already planned to give him the Yasakani no Magatama as reward. But he'd already said it, and Zhang Tianyi and the Japanese government had already negotiated. It was too late for Chen Zhao to regret now. "President, when are we going?" "Probably in 2 weeks. I'll get the divine artifact first. Also, don't tell anyone else." "Yes, I know." Chapter 1692. For a country, sovereignty wasn't just territory. National treasures were also a part of sovereignty. No country was willing to give their national treasure to an outsider, even if it was only symbolic. The Kusanagi sword, the Yasakani no Magatama, and the Yada no Kagami were like that. They were enshrined in the Japanese palace. They had no practical use. But to anyone, even to the royal family, it was supreme. But it wasn't impossible to give them. If they could avert an upheaval or a disaster, that is, those in power were still willing to give. No matter which country or government, there were people who were absolutely rational. For example, Chun Zhao was a rational person. If his family was threatened, he was willing to give everything. The Japanese government was the same. Some people opposed it, while others agreed. More people agreed too. Of course, very few people knew about this deal. Only the prime minister and the royal family knew. Actually, their deal with Zhang Tianyi had an additional condition. Zhang Tianyi, Dragon Tiger Mountain's celestial master sect, and the Chinese government couldn't announce this. They, on the other hand, had to put a fake in the palace. As for fooling Zhang Tianyi with a fake, they didn't think that a fake could fool Zhang Tianyi. A week later, a metal box was delivered to Chun Zhao after a few rounds of transfer. The moment Chun Zhao opened the box, a jade-colored Magatama floated out of it. Chun Zhao pinched the Magatama and looked at it carefully. Is this the Yasakani no Magatama? Just from the surface, it looked like an ancient jade that had lost its luster. Its shape was also completely different from the jade carvings that Chinese people liked. There was also a hole at one end of the Magatama. Someone had once used this as a pendant. That was why it was pierced. Holding the Magatama, Chun Zhao felt even more. This was just a fucking internal alchemy. Not only that, it wasn't like old turtles. It was a god's internal alchemy. It was exactly the same as Chun Zhao's. Most importantly, this internal alchemy was also non-elemental. Chun Zhao couldn't help but wonder if the supreme god in Japan was also a non-elemental god. Chun Zhao held the Magatama in silence for a long time. Zhang Tianyi sat across from him and didn't speak either. Mr. Chun, did you discover something? Chun Zhao looked up at Zhang Tianyi. What about you? I noticed something unusual about this Magatama, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Suddenly, Chun Zhao clenched his fist very hard. Zhang Tianyi raised an eyebrow. This Magatama wasn't hard. At the very least, it couldn't block Chun Zhao's strength. Chun Zhao was probably going to crush the Magatama into powder. It was a national treasure of Japan. Even if you hate the Japanese, you don't have to be so wasteful. In fact, Chun Zhao wanted to crush the Magatama into powder. Chun Zhao was very sure that this was a relic of an ancient god. If Chun Zhao was a monster, he could just swallow the Magatama and absorb it. But Chun Zhao wasn't a monster. He could only use the mouth of gluttony to absorb the Magatama into his bloodline. Chun Zhao had thought that the Magatama was just a symbol. Perhaps it was created by the rulers of a certain era to fool the people. But now he knew. This was really good stuff. It was just that since ancient times, no one really knew how to make use of it. The real owner of the Magatama was probably much more powerful than Chun Zhao, at least judging from the size of the Magatama. Chun Zhao's inner core was only the size of a thumb now. This Magatama was at least 3 to 4 times the size of Chun Zhao's inner core. Chun Zhao was absorbing the immortal power. His Niden was also growing rapidly. It was much faster than Chun Zhao's cultivation. Soon, Chun Zhao's inner core doubled in size. Chun Zhao didn't expect to receive such an unexpected reward, because they were both non-elemental inner cores. Therefore, Chun Zhao didn't feel repulsed at all. Instead, he felt attracted to her. Chun Zhao had an idea. Mr. Chun, did you destroy the Magatama on purpose because you were worried that the Japanese government would come back? You can say that. Mr. Zhang, why don't you cooperate with me and put on a play? Acting? What are you acting in? Embezzlement, Chun Zhao said. Zhang Tian immediately understood Chun Zhao's intentions. Even if the Japanese government knew that the item was in Dragon Tiger Mountain's Divine Master Sect, they might not be willing to leave their national treasure in someone else's house. Therefore, one day they might come to ask for it back. Perhaps this would happen after Zhang Tianyi reached the end of his life. Then, what would Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Master's sect give them? Therefore, If Chun Zhao wanted to completely solve the problem, he had to put on a play. Do you have a way to hide it from others? As long as the 23rd Blood Mary doesn't say anything, it won't be exposed, Chun Zhao said. She won't. She knows what to say and what not to, Zhang Tianyi said confidently. How do you plan to put on a play? You return the thing to Japan, and I'll steal it. Are you sure it's reliable? I have a technique called body clone. Chun Zhao grinned. It definitely won't be exposed. Zhang Tianyi raised an eyebrow. Body clone. This was a legendary mystical spell. Mr. Chun, which sex legacy is it from? Does Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect have any interesting spells? Let's exchange. Chun Zhao didn't want an equivalent exchange. If Zhang Tianyi could owe him a favor, why not? Of course, he wouldn't give it away for free. If it's a spell equivalent to this incarnation, we don't have it. However, our Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Master sect still has many interesting spells, such as Divine Strike. Is that the legendary God Invitation? Chun Zhao asked curiously. God Invitation is a trick of the Jianghu. It's the combination of essence, qi, and spirit. It looks like you've been possessed by a god, but you're actually just a little more resistant to beatings. Zhang Tianyi seemed to be a little disdainful of this method. He then said, the divine strike of our Mount Longhu celestial sect uses the power of outer space to temper the body. In scientific terms, it is to transform the body by absorbing cosmic rays. How effective can this be? When the country launched a manned rocket, I went up too. I stayed there for more than 10 days, and my body strengthened several times. You have to go to outer space to cultivate. The cosmic rays are all blocked by the atmosphere. Cultivating gods strike on the ground for more than 10 years might not be as effective as staying there for more than 10 days. Hearing about this spell, Chun Zhao was very happy. He felt that this spell was tailor-made for him. He hadn't been to outer space before, but he could reach the sky. Tens of thousands of meters in the sky, the air was thin and the cosmic rays weren't as strong. Chapter 1693. On the surface, Zhang Tianyi had accepted the mission of sealing the killing stone. So, Zhang Tianyi had to go to Japan first. Chun Zhao was waiting for Zhang Tianyi's message. In the past few days, Chun Zhao had been preparing. During cultivation, Chun Zhao had obtained the complete Divine Strike technique from Zhang Tianyi. Divine Strike was a top-notch spell in the Celestial Masters sect, but it wasn't a secret. There were more than 10 people in Mount Longhu's Celestial Masters sect who knew this technique. Outside of Mount Longhu's Celestial Masters sect, there were also a few people who knew this technique. Chun Zhao, on the other hand, exchanged the spell of his avatar. Of course, in terms of value, the clone was definitely more valuable. However, when it came to things like value, different people would have different opinions. Of course, the cultivation requirements for the clone were also higher. This wasn't something that just anyone could train to do. In the few days in Los Angeles, Zhang Tianyi went to Mingwei Villa every day to talk to Chun Zhao. If not for the Japanese government urging Zhang Tianyi probably wouldn't want to leave. To be honest, Zhang Tianyi was also a huge help to Chun Zhao. Zhang Tianyi was a professional. He had the most orthodox inheritance. Chun Zhao was a true unorthodox person. He knew a little of everything, and he had to figure it out himself. Zhang Tianyi's guidance made up for many of Chun Zhao's shortcomings. After receiving Zhang Tianyi's guidance, Chun Zhao felt that he really had to go to the Celestial Masters sect. Chun Zhao was indeed very powerful now. Zhang Tianyi had even been telling him that he was the #1 person in the world. But Chun Zhao didn't even know some basic Taoist things. At night, Chun Zhao rose to an altitude of 30,000 meters. The air here was less than 1/30th of the air on the ground. The cosmic radiation here was 100 times stronger than on the ground. If he went higher, the air would be thinner and the cosmic radiation stronger. But if he went higher, Chun Zhao wouldn't be able to handle it. Chun Zhao could breathe in the water because he had evolved the ability to absorb the oxygen in the water. But he hadn't evolved to the point where he could completely break free from oxygen. Plus, he wasn't sure if he could fight against a vacuum environment. Chun Zhao could fly now, but he hadn't truly reached the stage where he could fly. Of course, if it was just holding his breath, he could do it for 2 hours. But he planned to go higher slowly. The first thing to do was to adapt to the altitude of 30,000 meters. Chen Zhao felt that the creator of God's Strike had to be a really awesome person. At the very least, he was at the level of a deity. Of course, it wasn't someone as ignorant as Chen Zhao. This also showed the foundation of the Celestial Master sect of Longhu Mountain. Sometimes he even thought that he was the first person in history. But reality proved that if Chen Zhao was compared to the ancients, he probably wouldn't even be ranked. Not to mention the ancient times that created legends. Even the past dynasties, there were probably many great magical powers that could move mountains and fill seas. Who could guarantee that it wouldn't happen in modern society? Humans didn't, but what about other races? For example, what about the giant dragon clan that hibernated in the human world? Absorbing cosmic rays was a very dangerous move for ordinary people. Being exposed to a large amount of radiation was like throwing a person into a microwave oven. However, for those in the enchanting realm, their bodily functions were already far superior to those of ordinary people, and their resistance was 100 times greater than that of ordinary people. 23rd Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi could also fly, but their bodies were weaker than Chen Zhao's, so they couldn't be exposed to low pressure and lack of oxygen like Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't have this problem. When cosmic rays weren't a fatal threat anymore, they became the source of energy for the body. Chen Zhao thought about it as he cultivated. If one day he was strong enough, would he be able to travel through the universe? Absorbing cosmic rays and absorbing spiritual qi were actually the same concept. They both had to be converted into his own energy. But different from spiritual qi would eventually be converted into immortal power or magic power. When cosmic rays were absorbed into the body, they were completely absorbed by the cells. They were stored in the cells and then strengthened. But Chen Zhao's cells were filled with immortal power. The two types of pure energy didn't repel each other. Instead, they attracted each other, but they didn't mix. After each cell absorbed the energy converted from cosmic rays, it repelled and attracted the immortal power, forming something like a yin and yang fish. Chen Zhao felt his body strengthen several times. But there was a limit which depended on Chen Zhao's immortal power. The maximum amount of cosmic rays absorbed couldn't exceed immortal power. After the immortal power and cosmic energy reached a perfect balance, the cells also stabilized. Chen Zhao felt it. His body had strengthened by around 3 times. Moreover, it was cultivated to the extreme in one go. It was hard to improve further, unless Chen Zhao's immortal power could improve further. But according to Zhang Tianyi, he'd spent more than 10 days cultivating in outer space, and his body had strengthened 10 times. There was no reason for him to be weaker than him, right? Was it because the limit of his body was too high? Chen Zhao suddenly thought of Magatama. Magatama was in the shape of a yin and yang fish, and he sensed that Magatama was a god's internal alchemy. But why was it in the shape of a yin and yang fish? And there was only half of it. Where did the other half go? Normally, if an internal alchemy was destroyed, it would be the entire thing, not half. Was there another possibility that this god's internal alchemy was half immortal power and half cosmic energy? And after the god died, only half of the immortal power was left, while the cosmic energy dissipated. This was an idea. He could try. Chen Zhao started to compress the cosmic energy. More and more cosmic energy was compressed into the internal alchemy. As expected, the internal alchemy started to change. As more and more cosmic energy was compressed, the internal alchemy started to change. The shape of the internal alchemy started to change into the shape of a yin and yang fish. Chen Zhao felt the surging feeling brought by this change. There was also the information in the cosmic energy. Violent, restless, chaotic. This was an extremely unstable energy, but the other half of the yin and yang fish formed by the immortal power was very calm. As the yin and yang fish rotated, The other half of the yin and yang fish formed by the cosmic energy also formed a magical stable structure. Chun Zhao suddenly understood the yin and yang that Taoists talked about. Yin represented chaos, while yang represented extreme stillness. When the two merged together, they were clearly separated, but they formed a stable and permanent state. Moreover, the rotation of the yin and yang fish made Chun Zhao feel endless. Chun Zhao moved and landed back on the ground. Fast, too fast. Chun Zhao felt that his speed had increased by at least 10 times. Of course, Chun Zhao felt that he had to solve another important problem. How could he ensure that he wouldn't run naked in the high-speed air friction? Chapter 1694. Currently, there were only materials that could resist such high-speed friction. Apart from metal, there seemed to be only dragon scales. But dragon scales weren't suitable for modern textile technology. Chun Zhao thought for a moment. He'd get Ruan Faxi to make a pair of dragon scale boxers later. Then he'd add a spell that could expand and shrink it. That way, when Chun Zhao used the Titan, his pants wouldn't burst. He had to at least get the finished product before he went to Japan. It was past 4 in the morning. Chun Zhao sat on the dragon's head and took out Satan's blood. The handsome guy had taught Chun Zhao how to absorb Satan's blood. It wasn't easy. Chun Zhao had tried before. It was very inefficient, but he had no choice. If he absorbed Satan's blood through the container, he could only absorb the power released by the blood. It was easy to increase efficiency. Open the container. The blood of Satan was directly released. But that would be like detonating a nuclear bomb. There was another way. He could use his hand to block the container. Through direct contact, he could absorb Satan's blood. But Satan's blood would definitely kill Chun Zhao in an instant, unless he had the power of a Demon King. Anyone below Demon King level couldn't resist Satan's blood. Each drop of Satan's blood could create a secondary Demon King. But the secondary Demon Kings didn't choose to absorb Satan's blood. They used it. There was a direct difference between the two. For example, Beelzebub Zophi was challenging a secondary Demon King. What was it for? It was to take Satan's blood from the secondary Demon King. In other words, Satan's blood could be used infinitely. But the way the handsome guy taught Chun Zhao was different. It was to let Satan's blood flow in Chun Zhao's body. But the cycle was very long. It might take hundreds or even thousands of years to completely absorb this drop of Satan's blood. But Chun Zhao definitely didn't have that long. Perhaps his identity as a god could greatly increase his lifespan. But Chun Zhao could clearly feel that he wasn't like the legendary immortals who lived as long as the sky and the earth, shining with the sun and moon. He probably wouldn't even be 300 years old. 300 years was a long time for normal people. But for a god, it wasn't a long time. Never mind, I'll put it away first. Chun Zhao believed that absorbing Satan's blood would be very beneficial to him. However, he really couldn't be bothered with the long cycle. It was like someone saying that eating health supplements every day was good for the body. Perhaps health supplements were indeed good for the body. But this change was not obvious. The sun rose, and Chun Zhao bathed in the sunlight. He could also absorb sunlight now. Sunlight is also a kind of cosmic ray. However, it was blocked by the atmosphere. Therefore, the sunlight was more like an appetizer or a dessert after a meal to Chun Zhao. After breakfast, Chun Zhao drove to the headquarters. Many people in the association had the habit of waking up early. However, Chun Zhao was definitely not one of them. Everyone was surprised that Chun Zhao came to the headquarters so early in the morning. Chun Zhao didn't greet anyone. He directly entered the training tower. Moreover, Chun Zhao reset his progress from the first level. The association members all thought that Chun Zhao was too bored. The first floor? Most official members were able to clear the dungeon by themselves. Was this necessary? Avatar 10,000 techniques return to 1. Dark assimilation, mighty miracle god. Chun Zhao's skin turned metallic. The monsters on the first floor had already surrounded him. Chun Zhao punched the ground with all his strength. Millions of tons of power poured into the ground. In an instant, the Earth's tectonic plates shattered. The shockwave covered a radius of 1,000 meters. The surrounding monsters bled instantly. The bodies of the monsters exploded one by one. More than 1,000 monsters were killed in an instant. He cleared the first floor. SSS. Chun Zhao entered the second floor. The twisted monsters on the second floor surrounded him again. This time, Chun Zhao didn't use the same method as before. Instead, he used punches. Chun Zhao punched with all his strength. The punches were many times more powerful than before. With a faster speed and greater power, the fist shadows became more terrifying. The twisted monsters touched the punches. They weren't smashed into pieces. They evaporated. Chun Zhao released thousands of punches in an instant. He immediately met the requirements to clear the level. Still SSS. Entering the third floor, Chun Zhao took out the black trident. The moment the winged demon appeared, Chun Zhao moved. Instantly, a black shadow flashed across the sky. Severed limbs rained down from the sky. He cleared the level again. Still SSS. Just like before, once Chun Zhao used his full strength, there would be nothing left of him. Chun Zhao didn't continue. Instead, he left the Tower of Trials. President, how come you're out so soon? Klaus asked. Klaus, what do the military use to test the speed of cannonballs? Chun Zhao asked. Most use optical capture, Klaus said. Is this equipment expensive? Klaus nodded. Very. Do you have a way? President, do you want it? Yes, I need it personally, Chun Zhao said. We can also give it to our own people. Chun Zhao planned to buy a set of equipment. How much exactly? About $30 million if we go through the proper channels, Klaus said. Chun Zhao thought about it. Then help me get one through the proper channels. How big is the equipment? Very big, at least as big as our warehouse. Okay, give me your account number. You'll be in charge of buying the equipment. President, do we need this equipment? Klaus didn't understand. After all, they weren't testing weapons. I need it personally. Chun Zhao wanted to know how fast he was now, because once he sped up, everything would seem to be moving in slow motion. Okay, I understand. Chun Zhao felt that he'd improved a bit too quickly recently. However, it was only in terms of strength. He hadn't broken through in terms of cultivation. This meant that Chun Zhao still had a lot of room for growth. He didn't run into any bottlenecks in the short term. Oh, is Fazabin awake? He didn't sleep. He's in a lab the whole night. I'll go find him. Chun Zhao disappeared from Klaus' sight. Klaus was stunned. Before, he could barely catch Chun Zhao's shadow. But now, he couldn't even catch a trace of Chun Zhao. With someone like this leading the way, everyone hoped that they could speed up and keep up with Chun Zhao. They would always think of all sorts of ways to become stronger. For example, Klaus would ask an elite to fight him. After going against Angelite's super speed, Klaus' reaction speed had reached an inhuman level. Chapter 1695. Fazabin, help me make something. President, what do you want? Boxers, Chun Zhao said as calmly as he could. Huh, President, this joke isn't funny at all. Ruan Fazabin waved his hand. He just looked at Chun Zhao's serious eyes. He suddenly realized that Chun Zhao wasn't joking. President, I'm an alchemist. I'm a famous alchemist. I'm going to become a famous alchemist in the future. I need 10 pairs to change. Use dragon scales. A few minutes later, Chun Zhao stated his request and walked out of Ruan Fazabin's lab. Ruan Fazabin was in despair. He thought of his future. If he could really become a famous alchemist in the future, this would definitely be a stain that he could never erase. However, under Chun Zhao's power, he had no right to refuse. Chun Zhao returned home. Something was wrong. There was a strange aura in the air. Celestial power. Where did it come from? Chun Zhao expanded the small world to the max. There was nothing suspicious. The celestial power kept spreading wildly. Too powerful, too surging, it far surpassed Chun Zhao's own celestial power. Chun Zhao's heart jumped. He immediately appeared in the basement. It was Old Turtle's internal alchemy. It was the celestial power released by Old Turtle's internal alchemy. How could this be? How could Old Turtle's internal alchemy be filled with such powerful celestial power? Had Old Turtle finished? Chun Zhao entered the river map. Smiling, Old Turtle waited for Chun Zhao. He seemed to have expected Chun Zhao to come in now. You're here. You seem to have improved well. Old Turtle looked at Chun Zhao in admiration. Old Turtle, you woke me up, Old Turtle said. I'm an immortal now. Immortal? Chun Zhao looked at Old Turtle. There was a very special aura around Old Turtle, but Chun Zhao couldn't tell what was special. Old Turtle, is there a difference? I've been accumulating for millions of years and had a moment of enlightenment. That's why I have today's achievements. Do you think there's a difference? What about me? Chun Zhao asked. You? Old Turtle looked at Chun Zhao. Just follow your own thoughts. No one's path is always wrong. I know. Different paths lead to the same goal, right? Chun Zhao pursed his lips. Are you... I'm going to break through the void. Old Turtle nodded. It can really shatter the void? Are you still using that black trident? Old Turtle asked. Yeah, what's wrong? Give it to me. Chun Zhao obediently handed the black trident to Old Turtle. Old Turtle waited. For you now, it's a bit light. Old Turtle tapped the handle of the black trident with his finger and made a hole in it. Then, Old Turtle took out a huge inner core. The inner core that was more than 30 meters in diameter gradually shrank under Old Turtle's spell. Shrinking to the size of a finger, Old Turtle inserted the inner core into the handle of the black trident. Then, using the same trick, Old Turtle poked 12 holes on the black trident. Each hole was filled with an inner core. Old Turtle, you're rich now. Don't you care about your life? My immortal power is too abundant, Old Turtle said generously. It's been accumulated for millions of years. It doesn't matter if I lose a few inner cores. I'm afraid I won't be able to teach you any more after I leave. Chun Zhao wasn't thinking about that. He just didn't know how many days and nights they'd been together. Chun Zhao always felt suffocated. This might really be the last time he left. Old Turtle, what level are you exactly now? According to Taoist standards, I'm a golden immortal now. Just then, a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the wound. The wind started blowing. Old Turtle took a deep breath. I'm really leaving this time. Just like I said, there's no wrong path. Old Turtle's body slowly floated up. Chun Zhao rarely acted emotionally, but now he could only secretly wipe away his tears. Old Turtle, have a safe journey. In the air, Old Turtle suddenly cursed, fuck, I'm not going to die. Can't you say something auspicious? Then we'll meet again in the world. The path to immortality is long. If we're lucky, we'll meet again. Old Turtle flew into the black hole, and it disappeared. The entire river map was empty. Chun Zhao held the black trident in his hand. Chun Zhao felt that the black trident was extremely heavy. It had been a long time since Chun Zhao felt something that could make him feel heavy. But this heaviness made Chun Zhao's hands feel incredibly smooth. There were 12 internal alchemy embedded in the black trident. Only one internal alchemy surged with immortal power, which complemented Chun Zhao's own. The other 11 internal alchemy were lifeless. Not a single bit of immortal power seeped out. What's this? Do I have to undo the seal myself? After returning to the modern world, Chun Zhao still couldn't hide his disappointment. An old friend had left forever just like that. It was nice to say that they would meet again, but Chun Zhao knew that they would never see each other again. Master, Mr. Zhang Tianyi is calling. Connect. Hello, Mr. Zhang, what's up? I've been in Japan for a few days. I've been wandering around the sealed area. The situation is more serious than I thought. It's best if you can come to Japan in a few days. Okay, I'll go as soon as possible. I'll contact you when I get there, Chun Zhao said. After hanging up, Chun Zhao called West. West, the situation in Japan is urgent. I'll go there first. You guys get ready too. We'll go in 2 days. Okay, President. After hanging up, Chun Zhao thought about it. Fei Lai, are we going to Japan? Sure. Fei Lai nodded. We can go to Japan for a while. I told Robio that we'll go back to the coastal rescue team at the beginning of October. Can I not go? Little Larissa is still young, Chun Zhao said unwillingly. When little Jerlin was her age, she already knew how to take care of herself. Fei Lai had become moldy from staying at home. After all, she'd been pregnant for 10 months and had been in confinement for almost 3 months. Of course, the so-called confinement was actually Fei Lai's rehabilitation. Chun Zhao knew that he couldn't stop her, so he could only agree. He'd have the 5 tiger generals go to Angel Beach later. Portia, help me book some tickets to Tokyo. Boss, are you going to Tokyo? Yes, you too. Can I go too? Portia was overjoyed. After all, she could go on a public holiday. Chen Zhao chuckled. Public holiday? I'm a capitalist. Why would she think that she could go? Chen Zhao planned to have Portia go with Fei Lai to carry the bags. Chapter 1696. The next day, Ruan Faxbin delivered the magic underwear that Chen Zhao needed. It wasn't a complicated magic item. Portia busied herself in Chen Zhao's house. Chen Zhao bowed, Fei Lai bowed, Jerlin bowed, and Larissa bowed. There were more than 20 suitcases of various sizes. Portia, book a hotel, Chen Zhao said. Book the hotel for 10 days. Also rent 10 business cars. Boss, just a few of us. Do we need to book a hotel? Portia stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. It's not just a few of us. Gaia and the others are going? Fei Lai asked. Yes, everyone. Chen Zhao nodded. Dad, are we taking a plane? Jerlin was clearly excited. Kids all like to travel far. Their flight was at 8 tonight. It was a direct flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Chen Zhao found some time to call Kalon. Kalon, my family and I are going to be away for a while. Stay at my house for a few days and help me take care of my pets. Also, you could drive my family car. Sure, no problem. Can I have a party at your house? You just have to clean it up. If I find the house in a mess when I get home, I'll kill you. I promise I won't make a mess, Colin said excitedly. He knew how luxurious and advanced Chen Zhao's Mingwe villa was. Come and help me carry my luggage later. There were more than 20 suitcases. Chen Zhao, Fei Lai, and Portia couldn't carry them at all. Little Jerlin and little Larissa were also there. They couldn't help at all. Instead, they needed special care. A while later, Kalon came over. Hello, Miss Fei Lai. Hello, Kalon. Did Chen force you to do hard labor again? You should be tougher with him. You can't always be led by the nose. Fei Lai smiled at Kalon. No, Mr. Chen treats me very well. Chen Zhao pulled Kalon over. Come with me. Register a level 2 authority in the housekeeper system. Otherwise, you won't even be able to enter the house. Then, Chen Zhao brought Kalon to the basement. If you want to cultivate, you can do so here. Although it was a basement, the lighting was actually very good. On both sides of the sphere was a wooden walkway. The periphery was made of transparent glass, allowing one to see the sea outside. The elements here are more active than outside. You'll be able to train several times faster here than outside. Colin's eyes lit up, but he didn't have time to think. Chen Zhao grabbed Kalon and pressed a few more numbers on the lock on the wall. Follow me. The basement was completely dark. As Colin entered the lower basement, he felt a chill down his spine. Mr. Chen, is there no light on this floor? Papa. Chen Zhao clapped his hands, and the lights in the room lit up. In that instant, Colin's scalp went numb. This was because there was a 3-headed giant dog lying in front of them. Cerberus! Colin screamed. Shut up! Chen Zhao shouted. Just then, all 3 heads woke up. They opened their eyes and walked toward Chen Zhao. Awoo! The 3 heads fought to lick Chen Zhao. Let's get to know each other. This is Kalon, my friend. He'll take care of you for a while in my place, Chen Zhao said. They're little 3, little 2, and little 1. The 3 heads have different consciousnesses. During the day, they'll sleep at home. At night, you can let them out to play. This switch can open up the tunnel. Colin's mind was in a mess. Chen Zhao slapped the back of Colin's head. Stop spacing out. Wake up. You're a spiritualist now, too. You don't have to be so surprised by a Cerberus. Oh, what? What do they eat? Will they? No, they don't eat humans. Even if they do, they'll eat human souls. Of course, they like dog food more. Okay, you can have a party in my house, but you can't let anyone stay overnight, Chen Zhao said. My family has too many secrets. If ordinary people find out, I might kill them. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, I understand. Good. Chen Zhao nodded. Go back to sleep. Wake up after dinner. I'll introduce you to the other pets at home. You might not have seen some of them yet. When Kalon saw Raymond, he was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. Raymond's body reminded him of the anaconda disaster. But what surprised him the most was that the boss of Chun Zhao's pets was actually a little kitten, a very cute little kitten. Chun Zhao brought Kellen to the yacht. I have 5 sharks and a family of dolphins at home. You need to feed them too. Of course, you don't have to feed them too often. Give me your bank card and I'll transfer some money to you. Just buy a cow every 2 days. Mr. Chun, are you sure they won't bite? They won't. Chun Zhao bent down and patted the back of the yacht. The fins of the 5 sharks were already out of the water. Come and recognize him. You've seen him before. He's Kalan. He'll be responsible for taking care of the next few. Chun Zhao told them everything he needed to. There were too many family members. Chun Zhao had to explain everything clearly. Chun Zhao also hoped to bring them to Japan. But that wasn't realistic, even if Chun Zhao could charter a plane. Animals needed a lot of documents to enter and leave a country. By the time they were done, half a year would have passed. Kalan was still in shock at the moment. Also, there are 2 big guys in the sea, Chun Zhao said. They rarely show themselves, but don't panic if you see them. Kalan felt that his willpower was already strong enough. He'd already seen Cerberus. Walls could scare him. Chun Zhao didn't say much. Amon and Little Nine lived in a trench far away. They usually didn't show themselves. Chun Zhao took out 2 demonic crystals. Put these 2 away first. If you encounter any problems you can't handle in the nearby waters, hit them. My pets will come and save you. Any problem? Of course it can't be any problem, but most of the problems can be solved by my pet. Mr. Chun, can I drive this yacht? Yes. The main control system is connected to the housekeeper system. You have level 2 authority now. Chun Zhao paused. Also, I'll be monitoring everything in the house through the housekeeper system. You better take good care of my kids. Of course, no problem. Kalan felt a bit of pressure. You can't stay in my and the kids' bedroom. You can choose any other room. Chapter 1697. Kalan helped Chun Zhao carry the 20 or so suitcases to the check-in counter. Chun Zhao patted Kalan's shoulder. I'll leave my family to you. Okay, Mr. Chun. Don't worry. I'm going into the departure lounge. You can go back too. Feilai and Portia each carried a child. I want to walk. I want to walk. Put me down. Little Jerlin squirmed in Portia's arms and jumped onto the ground. Coincidentally, Chun Zhao walked over and picked up Jerlin. Jerlin, if you mess around in public, I won't go easy on you, Chun Zhao threatened. Dad, I'm not messing around. Jerlin puffed her cheeks and crossed her short arms in front of her chest. Chun Zhao put Jerlin on his neck. Little Larissa, who was in Feilai's arms, saw that her sister could sit on her dad's neck. She immediately tried to fight for the spot with Jerlin. Chun Zhao was helpless. He could only take Larissa. He had Jerlin move to the left. Then, the 2 guards hung on Chun Zhao's shoulders. Bringing a child out was really troublesome. Huh? Westana stopped in her tracks. She looked at the familiar figure in front of her. She knew that Chun Zhao had 2 daughters. She even had photos of his 2 daughters. However, she didn't expect to see Chun Zhao here. Chun Zhao felt Westana's gaze and turned his head. He realized that Westana and the 20 or so people behind her were all spiritualists. What he didn't expect the most was that Samira was also a member of the anti-terrorism security team. Samira also saw Chun Zhao. A few people in the psionic team glared at Chun Zhao. Some even rubbed their palms together, especially Tank, who had been kicked away by Chun Zhao last time. Tank, control your anger, Britt said in a low voice, tugging at Tank. This isn't the place to fight. This was the departure lounge. There were hundreds of normal people here. It definitely wasn't a good place to fight. Chun Zhao retracted his gaze and looked at Portia. Portia, help me get a VIP card for all the airlines, he said loudly. I don't like places where random people can sneak in. Feilai rolled her eyes at Chun Zhao. She walked to Chun Zhao's side and took little Jerlin and Larissa. He asked in a low voice, Enemy. A bunch of idiots, Chun Zhao said, shrugging. They treat me and the supernatural organization as competitors. With his hands in his pockets, Chun Zhao looked relaxed as he faced the 20 or so aggressive people in front of him. Vestana walked over. She still had to put on a respectful and friendly face. Hi, Mr. Chun. How are you? Not bad. Miss Vestana. What do you think of my suggestion? What suggestion? Vestana was stunned for a moment and asked in puzzlement. Didn't I say that I want you to work for me? You should know that I'm very rich, right? How much is your current salary? I can give you double it. Vestana smiled bitterly. She knew that Chun Zhao was messing with her, but she couldn't get angry. I think I've also said that I'm very satisfied with my current job, and I have no intention of changing jobs. Vedhana was Mansari's right-hand man. She didn't just have a salary. She also had connections, resources, and power. Chun Zhao couldn't give her all of this. Even if she really worked for Chun Zhao, he wouldn't trust her either, because from the moment she chose her own side. She couldn't change sides. Chun Zhao's side. What a pity. How could a pretty girl like you stand being with a bunch of idiots? Chun Zhao's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. At least, the people in the psionic team heard it. Some were unmoved by Chun Zhao's words. Others were furious at Chun Zhao's words. Mr. Chun, where are you going? Vestana decided to change the topic. If she continued to let Chun Zhao provoke her so openly, her subordinates would probably lose control sooner or later. It wasn't a good idea to fight here. Traveling. Do you want to tag along? Chun Zhao asked, smiling. I'm afraid not. We still have a mission. We'll go now. Bye. Coincidentally, my flight is boarding time too. Huh. Mr. Chun, are you going to Tokyo? You too? Yes, Mr. Chun. Are you going for the Scarlet Mission? I'm not interested in the Scarlet Mission. Good luck. Vestana heaved a long sigh of relief. If Chun Zhao interfered, they really wouldn't be able to compete. The psionic team had also participated in the Turan ghost ship encirclement on Omar Island. But the result wasn't ideal. Moreover, the Turan ghost ship had completely disappeared after leaving Mama Island. Then, news spread that the mission had been completed. Vestana suspected that Chun Zhao was the one who'd completed the mission. This news wasn't confirmed by either party, but Vestana still firmly believed it. Other than Chun Zhao, no one could make Turan disappear without anyone knowing. Then, Blood Mary 23 came to Los Angeles. Vestana also suspected that it had something to do with Chun Zhao. This made her feel even more pressured. Chun Zhao and the supernatural organization had given her too much pressure, especially Chun Zhao. He was like a mountain that could never be crossed. He was firmly pressing down on her heart. Vestana had tried to contact Blood Mary 23 and wanted to work with her, but she only said, "Are you qualified?" and chased her away. Vestana didn't even have a temper. She could target Chun Zhao in secret. This was because Chun Zhao didn't have any social or political influence without his identity as a cleric. But Blood Mary 23 was different. She was a member of the European royal family, a big noble, and the spiritual leader of the European spiritual world. She was a grandmotherly figure in the entire spiritual world. All these identities made it so that even if Vestana was scolded in front of her, she could only hide her head and keep a low profile. Vestana thought so. Of course, Mansari thought so too. They thought that Chun Zhao's only advantage was his power. If his power was replaced, he would lose his value. Mansari felt that with the resources of the Anti-Terrorism and Security Department, or even the government, they had a chance to surpass Chun Zhao. They didn't have to fight him head-on. They just had to prove that they could solve all problems. Of course, not having a fight was also their default rule. Fighting wouldn't benefit anyone. After Chun Zhao boarded the plane, he realized that he was sitting in the same cabin with Vestana and the psionic team. Other than the 3 seats for Chun Zhao, Falai, and Portia, the other seats were all for the psionic team. 9 Heavens God Emperor. Chapter 1698. The atmosphere was very awkward. Of course, Chun Zhao definitely wouldn't feel awkward. Instead, he felt that this trip would be much more fun. After all, Los Angeles was almost 9,000 kilometers away from Tokyo. They had to stay in the same cabin for almost 11 hours. Of course, many people in the psionic team wanted to use this opportunity to take revenge on Chun Zhao. Both sides had a tacit understanding, but at the same time, they all had their own plans. On the other side of the aisle beside Chun Zhao sat 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was very young. She wore a headset and listened to music. Moreover, the girl's music was very loud. Even with headsets, the people next to her could hear the sound. The other two men were both in their 30s. One was wearing casual clothes with his hat pulled down. He seemed to be asleep. The other man was dressed very unconventionally. There were tattoos on his exposed skin. His nose and ears were pierced and hung with some accessories. Lothar, teach that arrogant guy a lesson. The guy nudged his companion beside him. Noxus looked up at his non-mainstream companion. Then he glanced at Chun Zhao from the corner of his eye. Caesar, we better behave. That guy seems to have a powerful background. We better not joke around on the plane. Caesar looked displeased. If you don't dare, I'll do it myself. We're on a plane, Lothar said, frowning. What are you afraid of? Caesar said nonchalantly. I'm not threatening the plane. Just then, the flight attendant walked over with a dining card. Caesar's eyes brightened, and he released a contract evil spirit. The contract evil spirit secretly reached out its hand and pushed the Coke bottle on the dining card. The bottle fell toward Chun Zhao, who was sitting at the edge. Oh no. The flight attendant couldn't stop him in time. However, Chun Zhao immediately reached out and caught the Coke bottle before it spilled out. Sorry, sir. It's my mistake. The flight attendant hurriedly apologized. It's fine. Chun Zhao shook his head. Of course, he knew what had happened. It wasn't the flight attendant's fault, so there was no need to vent on her. Sir, do you need anything? No, thank you. Chun Zhao waved his hand. The flight attendant pushed the card over. Both Caesar and his contracted evil spirit made provocative expressions at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao turned his head and looked at the man and the ghost. An eerie smile appeared on his face. Chun Zhao made a gesture of flicking marbles, but there were no marbles on his fingertips. Pah! He abruptly flicked his thumb, and a popping sound was heard. Caesar's contract evil spirit was instantly pierced through. The contract evil spirit shrieked and disappeared. This was a move that Chun Zhao had just come up with. In fact, the principle was the same as the fish shadows. However, its power was reduced by tens of thousands of times. The joints of the thumb were too short, so he could only exert force through the tendons of the fingers. Therefore, even Chun Zhao couldn't unleash too much power. It was more than enough to destroy an evil spirit. If he wanted to increase his power, his index and middle fingers had to be more powerful. However, Chun Zhao did not want to create a hole in the cabin. Caesar stood up abruptly and stared at him furiously. You Caesar, sit down. What are you doing? Lothar immediately pulled Caesar back. He saw the exchange of blows between the two sides. He felt that Chun Zhao had gone too far. He destroyed Caesar's evil spirit in one move. However, Caesar was the one who attacked first. Therefore, Chun Zhao's counterattack was reasonable. However, he definitely could not let the conflict escalate. After all, they were all on the plane. If the plane was damaged, none of them could escape. He killed my ama! Caesar roared. Everyone in the cabin had their eyes on Caesar. Boss, is he talking about you? Did he say you killed someone? Portia asked, confused. That's an idiot. I don't know him, and I didn't kill anyone, Chun Zhao said nonchalantly. The flames of anger in Caesar's eyes couldn't be extinguished. He glared at Chun Zhao, but in the end, he still sat down. Near, help me. Caesar could only ask the girl beside him for help. The girl called Near, took off her headset. What? What did you just say? She didn't seem to know what had just happened. The guy beside me killed my ama. Oh, and then? I'm going to take revenge. Help me. No, Ms. Vestana said that we can't fight in public. Near put on her headset again. Caesar was furious. His two friends weren't willing to help him. After all, most people were still rational. Caesar's, on the other hand, was infuriated. He gritted his teeth and kept staring at Chun Zhao. Dad, I want to drink Coke, Jerlin said. Little bastard. Caesar cursed in a voice that was neither too loud nor too soft. But in the next instant, Caesar let out a blood-curdling scream. For some reason, his nose ring was suddenly ripped off. Hearing the scream, the flight attendant ran over. Sir, what happened? Caesar's face was covered in blood. It's him, it's him. He tore off my nose ring. Caesar raised his voice and yelled unscrupulously. However, the flight attendant didn't see Chen Zhao leave his seat at all. She also didn't see what Chen Zhao's dark lava had done. Flight attendant, I don't want this trip to be interrupted by a mad dog. If that's the case, I'll complain to your airline, Chen Zhao said calmly. Also, my daughter needs a Coke. Thank you. Okay. The flight attendant looked at Caesar. Sir, I need you to stay calm. Don't attack or harass other passengers for no reason. Are you an idiot? It's clearly him. He did it. Caesar was even more furious. Caesar, if you don't want to participate in this activity, then fuck off. Sitting in the front seat, Britt stood up and said, I need you to shut up from now on. Can you do that? Britt's face was dark and his eyes were dark. He didn't object to his subordinates causing trouble, but he hoped that his subordinates could understand the situation. Only then did Caesar sit down and shut his mouth, but his eyes were still filled with indignation. After the flight attendant left, Chen Zhao stood up and walked to Caesar's side. You better watch your mouth. Otherwise, I'll cut off your tongue, crush your nipples, dig out your eyeballs, and stomp on them. Caesar didn't dare speak because he felt something pressing against his back in his chair. It was poking out and pricking his skin. Good boy. Chen Zhao patted Caesar's cheek. Chapter 1699. Caesar was both embarrassed and angry. He hated Chen Zhao, but he hated that his companions ignored him even more. Portia glanced at Fei Lai beside her. Fei Lai didn't seem surprised by Chen Zhao's actions at all. Chen Zhao returned to his seat. He still had a smile on his face. Not everyone in the psionic team could remain calm. However, given the situation, no matter how angry they were, they could only keep it to themselves. On one hand, Westana had explicitly forbidden the psionic team from attacking Chen Zhao. On the other hand, they had to consider their own situation before doing anything on the plane. Some tricks might not work on Chen Zhao. In the end, they still chose to give up. Including the takeoff and landing, they would have to stay in the cabin for 11 hours. Even Chen Zhao felt extremely bored. Unfortunately, the psionic team didn't plan on making trouble for Chen Zhao anymore. Helpless, Chen Zhao could only go to sleep. After a few short breaks, the plane was still in the sky. Dear passengers, this flight is about to arrive at Tokyo International Airport. To all the passengers on the plane, the voice was undoubtedly heavenly. Chen Zhao opened his arms and stretched. They'd finally reached their destination. The plane landed smoothly. First-class passengers didn't need to squeeze with regular passengers to get off the plane. So, after the plane stopped, Chen Zhao and the others couldn't wait to get off. So tiring. Even someone as patient as Fei Lai couldn't help but feel uncomfortable about this boring flight. So we still have to buy a private plane, Chen Zhao said, empathizing. This journey is too painful. Portia glanced at Chen Zhao. Was Chen Zhao really that rich? He'd actually decided to buy a private plane. Moreover, he'd made this decision just because of this trip. Wasn't it a bit too hasty? They picked up the suitcases. There were more than 20 suitcases. It was really too much. Big suitcases were stacked on top of each other. It was truly spectacular. The three of them spent a great deal of effort and barely managed to arrange the 20 or so suitcases properly. But right at this moment, a mysterious force suddenly attacked. The suitcases collapsed instantly. Portia looked at the suitcases all over the ground and almost broke down. Chen Zhao frowned and looked in another direction. The psionic team, led by Westana, was also waiting for the suitcases. A few of them looked at Chen Zhao with evil intentions. Chen Zhao didn't know who did it. However, Chen Zhao was sure that one of them had done it. Chen Zhao walked up to Vestana with a smile. Miss Vestana, can I borrow a few of your men to help me transport my luggage? Vestana stared at him coldly. No. Chen Zhao turned to the other members of the psionic team and gestured with his marbles. Huh! Caesar screamed and fell to the ground. What are you going to do? Do you want to start a war? Vestana growled angrily in a low voice. You guys are used to playing tricks behind people's backs. Now I've decided. Don't you want to do the Scarlet Mission? I'll stop you from doing it. I'll make you come here for nothing. So your best choice now is to turn back. Vestana was also angered by Chen Zhao, but she had to suppress her anger. Blitz, take a few people and help Mr. Chun send his luggage out of the airport. Very well, Miss Vestana. Brits nodded with a cold expression. With the help of the psionic team, it was much easier to transport the luggage. Portia had rented a car in the airport parking lot. Britz's men didn't play tricks on Chun Zhao anymore. After a while, Chun Zhao's group finally arrived at the hotel. As soon as they reached the lobby, the receptionist said, "Hello, sir." "Hello, sir. There are no more private rooms in the hotel," the receptionist said in Japanese. Just then, Portia walked up and said in Japanese, "We booked your room. Please arrange a few people to send our luggage to our rooms." Then, Portia turned to Chun Zhao and Fei Lai. "Boss, Miss Fei Lai, please take out your passports for registration." As the guests who booked the entire hotel, the hotel immediately took action. No matter how one looked at it, they had a reason to be cautious. The hotel manager personally led the way. Behind him, a group of waiters helped Chun Zhao's group with their luggage. Portia also relaxed, which was rare. Portia had even prepared a luxurious suite for herself. There were plenty of empty rooms anyway. Her room wouldn't make a difference. The hotel manager was called Keiichi Ikeda. He was well-spoken and knowledgeable. His English was fluent, and there was no accent. He also knew that Chun Zhao and Fei Lai were the leaders. So, he stayed beside the two, complimenting Chun Zhao's handsomeness and Fei Lai's beauty. He also kept calling Jerlin and Larissa princesses and angels. "Chun-san, do you need me to prepare a local guide for you?" "Sure, I need a professional one." Chun Zhao nodded. Fei Lai was here to play. Chun Zhao couldn't stay by her side all day. It was best to have a professional guide. "Also, my men will arrive in 2 or 3 days. You should be prepared." "Yes, Chun-san." There were only 5 guests in the entire hotel, including Jerlin and Larissa. But the hotel didn't dare to be slow. After all, Chun Zhao had booked the entire hotel for $600,000 a day. "Knock, knock. Please come in." Keiichi Ikeda let a petite girl in. This girl was very much in line with the characteristics of Japanese girls. "Chun-san, Miss Fei Lai, this is Chiyo Kaori. She's the guide I found for you." Chiyo Kaori walked up and bowed. "Chun-san, Miss Fei Lai, hello. I'm Chiyo Kaori." Chun Zhao glanced at her. "You're not a professional guide, are you?" "Chun-san, I'm a student at Waseda University, but I grew up in Tokyo, so I know all the streets and alleys," Chiyo Kaori said seriously. "I travel everywhere, every year, so I know most of the attractions in Japan like the back of my hand. I can provide the best service. My professionalism isn't any lower than a professional guide's." "That's enough," Fei Lai said, trying to smooth things over. "I don't need a professional guide." They didn't plan on touring all of Japan. "Since Fei Lai says so, I don't have any objections." Chun Zhao shrugged. Actually, Chun Zhao wasn't referring to Chiyo Kaori's professionalism as a guide. It was because he could sense the magic power on Chiyo Kaori. Of course, magic was a Western term. In China, it was called mana, and in Japan, it was called spiritual power. Anyway, it was the same thing. Chapter 1700. Ginza was the most prosperous area in Tokyo and even the whole of Asia. It was also the most famous commercial area. Along with New York's Fifth Avenue and Paris's Champs-Élysées, it is one of the world's 3 largest financial and shopping centers. Ginza is known as the heart of Tokyo. It receives 3.6 million visitors every day. Standing at the crossroads, you might even be pushed by the flow of people. Ginza was also one of the 3 most unique attractions in Japan. The 3 scenic spots in Japan were Mount Fuji, Kyoto, and Ginza, representing nature, history, and modernity respectively. For bodyguards stood around Fei Lai, Portia, and Chiyo Kaori. Chun Zhao had hired them to protect Li and the 2 kids. For tall and burly bodyguards helped the 3 women and 2 children block the crowd. Shopping was a woman's nature. Fei Lai didn't stay in the hotel for long before she couldn't wait to go shopping in Ginza. Chun Zhao went to other places. After changing, he went to another scenic spot, Tokyo Grand Shrine. The main sacrifice here was the Amaterasu Great God and the harvest god Yumajin. Of course, it was also because Zhang Tianyi lived here. Tokyo Grand Shrine was one of the first shrines to hold modern weddings in front of gods, and it was open to the public. The earliest wedding to be held in Tokyo Daijingu was in Meiji year 33, when the Great Prince was married. The Tokyo Grand Shrine was also divided into the outer sect and the inner sect, just like the mountain sect in China. The outer shrine was open for visitors to visit and worship. The inner gate was presided over by the Miko, who only received some fellow Taoists. When Chun Zhao arrived at the Tokyo Grand Shrine, it was already dusk. Of course, Chun Zhao wasn't interested in worshiping the Japanese god either. Just then a guard stopped him. He spoke Japanese that Chun Zhao couldn't understand. Chun Zhao spoke to him in English. In the end, the two of them looked at each other speechlessly. Chun Zhao had no choice but to call Zhang Tianyi. After a while, a man dressed in ancient clothes with his hair tied up in a bun and a string of Buddhist beads in his left hand hurriedly walked out in wooden clogs. "Hello, are you Chun Zhao, Mr. Chun?" The man spoke fluent Chinese. Chun Zhao could still hear the accent, but he could understand it. "Yes." Chun Zhao nodded. "Please follow me." Perhaps it was because he was wearing wooden clogs. The man seemed to be in a hurry when he walked. Moreover, it kept making cracking sounds. Anyway, Chun Zhao felt bad listening to it. "How should I address you?" "I'm Nagai Okada. My Buddhist name is Seiwa. I'm the pillar monk here." "A monk?" Chun Zhao knew that Japanese monks could get married. The rules and regulations of the Zen sect did not need to be followed here. "You speak Chinese very well. I once studied Buddhism on Mount Wutai, Monk Sheng," he said. Finally, he arrived at the inner sect, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth suddenly became clear. Chun Zhao knew that there were feng shui masters in China who could gather qi and spiritual energy. This place was full of spiritual qi, so they probably used this method to gather qi. This feng shui qi gathering method itself was harmless. The more abundant the spirit qi, the higher the possibility of a spirit controller appearing, and vice versa. Therefore, this method of plundering the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the surrounding area. At most, it would reduce the probability of a spiritualist appearing in the surrounding houses. There were no other problems. Unhurriedly, Chun Zhao followed behind Saint and the monk. Sheng He also slowed down his pace. Just then, a few people came over. In the lead was Zhang Tianyi and an old woman. The old woman wore an ancient white robe. It looked like the witch costume Chun Zhao saw in anime. "Mother, Taoist master." Sheng He bowed and cupped his hands. To be honest, Chun Zhao really did not understand some of the customs in Japan. The mother was a witch, the son was a monk, and they ran a shrine. Was this a monk's temple or a shrine? "Chun Zhao, you're finally here." "Huh." Zhang Tianyi was as disrespectful as usual. He put his hand on the old woman's shoulder. "Yoko, let me introduce you. This is Chun Zhao. I met him in America. He's a very outstanding young man." Chun Zhao really suspected that the old woman was his lover. The old woman beside Zhang Tianyi studied Chun Zhao and then said in a kind tone, "Hello, Mr. Chun." "Hello." Chun Zhao did not know how to address her. "I'm Yoko Bai, the witch of the shrine." Yoko Bai looked at Chun Zhao and studied him carefully. She was very curious about Chun Zhao. What was so special about this young man that Zhang Tianyi respected so much? But after looking for a long time, she could not see anything. The young man looked very ordinary. He did not have any aura. "I've been by teacher's side for 20 years. I've never seen him respect someone so much," Yoko Bai said. "Mr. Chun, I wonder if you can open my eyes." So, she was Zhang Tianyi's student. But then again, Zhang Tianyi's age made sense. Most spiritualists in the world were his juniors. Yoko Bai was old, but she was at most 80 or 90 years old. Chun Zhao chuckled. "I'm just a strengthening spiritualist. There's nothing special about me." Zhang Tianyi also smiled, but did not speak. Chun Zhao had promised him that he could not reveal his strength. Zhang Tianyi also expressed his understanding. Everyone's situation was different, so they made different decisions. A few decades ago, before Chun Zhao was the leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Master Sect, he had also hidden his strength. Then, after becoming the leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Master Sect, he had to display his strength to solidify his position so that others would not dare to covet it. Now, Chen Zhao only needed to pretend to be Zhang Tiany's junior. "Mr. Chen, can you show me your dharma?" Yokobai asked. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tiany, who looked away. Since he did not speak, it meant that he agreed. "How do you want me to show you?" "There's a monster locked up in the back mountain of this shrine," Zhang Tiany said. "You can use it to practice." Hearing Zhang Tiany's words, Yokobai and the people in the shrine were all shocked. "Teacher, that monster, don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Zhang Tiany waved his hand. Since Zhang Tiany had said so, Yoko had no reason to object. Anyway, Zhang Tiany was here, so they did not need to worry about trouble. Everyone present was very confident in Zhang Tiany's strength. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was the top person in the spiritual world. But for Zhang Tiany to request to use that monster for practice, either he had a deep grudge against Zhang Tiany or he was really capable. Chen Zhao was then brought to the back of the mountain. Then he saw the monsters for him to practice with. Chapter 17:01. In the clearing in the back mountain, a monster's limbs were bound by several chains. The other ends of the chains were nailed to the trees with kunai. There was a talisman hanging on each kunai. How are monsters and demons differentiated? The ones in hell were demons. On the other hand, most demons were born from certain creatures or objects after they gained sentience. Of course, they could also be a collective of some kind of emotion. This demon looked like a burly monk. He was bare-chested and his limbs were ridiculously thick. His figure was also very tall. There was a ghost face on the back of his head. Ghost-faced Buddha, half demon. The ghost-faced Buddha sat on the ground. His arms were pulled apart by the chains and his head was lowered. However, he had already noticed a newcomer. The surroundings were filled with a thick demonic aura and the smell of blood. This meant that the monster was very powerful. However, it wasn't so powerful that it couldn't be destroyed. "What do you need me to do? Kill him?" Hikari Yoko and Sheng He, as well as the retainers behind them, all smiled. "He was originally a Buddha statue in a temple," Zhang Tiany said. "But the temple wasn't clean and polluted the statue, turning it into a demon. He killed everyone in the temple. His body is made of extremely tough alloy steel. Plus, he's demonized, so he's almost indestructible. Even cannonballs can't destroy his body. That little Japanese man was really perverted. Was he purposely raising a Buddha statue made of alloy steel to raise a monster?" Chen Zhao couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. Japanese onmyoges had the habit of controlling their spirit-branded retainers. They would capture monsters or create their own monsters. Chen Zhao didn't know much about Japan's spiritual world. However, he'd occasionally heard Donya Tenshi mention the situation in Japan. There were a lot of spiritualists in Japan. They could even be compared to China. Moreover, the spiritual world was very active. This was because the Shinto, Yin-yang, and Buddhism of Japan's spiritual world were all born from China. Moreover, they took an unconventional path and created an even more unique method. This caused Japan to be the most troublesome place in other regions. Many people learned a couple of moves and then started to act recklessly. Raising ghosts and monsters had become a norm. Even the Orthodox sects in Japan also raised ghosts and demons. Of course, they were still considered lucky. At least they wouldn't use ordinary people as food. But some people didn't care so much. Therefore, the number of independent spiritualists in Japan was also the largest. It could be said that there were good people and snakes mixed together, and their strength was uneven. Of course, it could not be denied that this kind of environment made Japan's supernatural world exceptionally prosperous and lively. Experts and geniuses also emerged one after another. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tiany. "Mr. Zhang, if you want to destroy him, even if he's really an invincible Vajra, you can probably crush him, right? There are only a handful of people in the Shangqing realm in this world. On the surface, he was the #1 expert in the world. Chen Zhao didn't believe that he couldn't even deal with this little monster. It's not difficult for me to kill him, but the repercussions are too great." Chun Zhao thought about it and realized that it was not hard to understand. This monster's greatest strength did not lie in his strength. It was his bug-like physical body. Zhang Tianyi smiled bitterly. It wasn't that he didn't have the ability to kill this monster. If he really wanted to subdue demons, he would be able to do it. But the spells he had on hand that could deal with this ghost-faced Buddha were basically enough to cut off half a mountain. To put it simply, it was like a group of bandits with powerful firepower driving a tank around the city. Normal soldiers couldn't kill them unless the military fired missiles. To Zhang Tianyi, the ghost-faced Buddha was just a little monster. Even your shrine can't deal with this monster? Chun Zhao asked, turning his head. Their situation is similar to mine, Zhang Tianyi said. They can either use a heavy weapon to kill him, but it's also very costly to use it. Chun Zhao suddenly realized that Zhang Tianyi hadn't called him here just to ask him to help him, right? That was quite possible. Zhang Tianyi knew Chun Zhao quite well. Chun Zhao became more and more suspicious that Zhang Tianyi and Shirai Yoko didn't just have a teacher-student relationship. Mr. Chun, do you have a solution? Shirai Yoko asked. As long as I can kill him, I can do anything, right? Of course. Then unseal him, Chun Zhao said. Shirai Yoko looked at Zhang Tianyi, who nodded slightly. Then Zhang Tianyi said to Chun Zhao, Chun Zhao, don't embarrass me. Show me what you've got. Okay. Chun Zhao nodded. Sheng He and the other 3 monks walked to the 4 corners. The 4 monks formed hand seals at the same time and activated their powers. With a clang, the 4 chains loosened at the same time. The ghost-faced Buddha, who had been sitting cross-legged on the ground, was instantly freed. Roar! The ghost-faced Buddha roared. It showed its ferocious face as soon as it was free. But it looked at Shirai Yoko and then at Zhang Tianyi. The guy turned and ran without any psychological burden. He's not stupid, Chun Zhao said. Don't let him run. It'll be troublesome if he escapes. Zhang Tianyi panicked. Chun Zhao moved immediately and stood in front of the ghost-faced Buddha. So fast. Shirai Yoko's eyes lit up. Seeing Chun Zhao, the ghost-faced Buddha pounced at him without thinking. Chun Zhao grabbed the ghost-faced Buddha's fist with one hand and punched its chest with the other. Ah! The ghost-faced Buddha let out a strange cry and spat out large amounts of filthy flesh and blood. Its legs fell to the ground like jelly, and it couldn't get up anymore. Apart from Zhang Tianyi, everyone else looked surprised. They were all waiting for the ghost-faced Buddha to get up. But the ghost-faced Buddha couldn't get up anymore. How is this possible? Shirai Yoko went up to check the ghost-faced Buddha's aura. But the ghost-faced Buddha was no longer breathing. The ground was covered with the flesh and blood it had swallowed. It had all been spat out. There was a shocking hole in the ghost-faced Buddha's chest. Through the hole, one could see that the skin was covered with flesh and blood, but the inside was metal. Yoko sucked in a breath of cold air. It ended just like that. She had been waiting to see a fierce battle. To her, one was the ghost-faced Buddha with an almost indestructible body. The other was someone Zhang Tianyi had personally picked and had hidden his strength. There should be an intense battle between the two. But just like that, all the problems were solved. Even the stubborn Shirai Yoko had to admit that Chun Zhao's strength was unfathomable. Chun Zhao's strength was unfathomable, especially his attack power. It was simply astonishing. Shirai Yoko wasn't in the enchanting realm, so she couldn't feel the existence of the small world. If she knew that Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi were on the same level, who knew what she would think? Chapter 1702. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chun Zhao. He didn't know if it was an illusion. It seemed that Chun Zhao had become stronger in just a few days. Yoko, what do you think? Did I introduce you to the right person? Mr. Chun is indeed unexpectedly powerful, Yuko said with a sigh. Was this the difference between a major and a secondary spiritual world? Japan's spiritual world was also very active. There were many geniuses, but they couldn't compare to China's spiritual world. However, the two countries' spiritual worlds were different. In Japan's supernatural world, spirit controllers were the majority of the population. The major factions sects, and government-backed supernatural organizations were secondary. On the other hand, the Huaxia spirit world was the complete opposite. The sects in the Huaxia spirit world were the most powerful. There were unaffiliated people, but there weren't many of them. 99% of them were scammers. After that, the people in the shrine's attitude towards Chen Zhao changed greatly. At the start, they had strong doubts about Chen Zhao. Now, they didn't doubt him anymore. At least, Chen Zhao's attack power had broadened their horizons. It wasn't that the shrines didn't have any trump cards. They had at least hundreds of years of history. It was bullshit to say that they couldn't kill the ghost-faced Buddha. But it wasn't worth it to kill the ghost-faced Buddha. The price would be huge. So, they chose to imprison and bind him. After seeing Chen Zhao's abilities, Chen Zhao didn't disappoint Zhang Tianyi. At least, it was rare for someone his age. Of course, they didn't think too highly of Chen Zhao. In their eyes, Chen Zhao was a genius of the new generation in China's spiritual world. There was still a huge gap between him and the older generation. Mr. Chen, do you need a Shikigami? Shikigami? Sorry, I don't need one. Chen Zhao rejected Yoko's good intentions. Of course, Yoko's intention was to invest in the future. In her eyes, Chen Zhao would become the leader of China's spiritual world in 30 years. Just like how the Tokyo Grand Shrine had invested in Zhang Tianyi 80 years ago. Of course, investment alone wasn't enough in that era. There was also the political stance of that era. It was also an important factor in maintaining a harmonious relationship with Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage sect. One must know that in the background of that era, behind the tragedy of the entire nation, the spiritual world was also in turmoil. He didn't need a Shikigami. He had enough pets at home. He wouldn't reject a retainer that could fight alongside him. But could the shrine give it to him? Even if they could, would they be willing to? Yoko also wanted to clarify that the spirit-branded retainer she gave him wasn't bad. Just then, Zhang Tianyi said, Yoko, Chen Zhao really doesn't need it. You can't give him the Shikigami he needs. Sensei, in our shrine, there are many powerful spirit-branded retainers. There are even spirit-branded retainers as powerful as that demon-faced Buddha. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. Was that ghost-faced Buddha considered powerful? All right, he was indeed quite powerful in the shrine, and there was still room for him to grow. But it would be wishful thinking to say that it could help Chen Zhao in battle. Unless Yoko White could give him a Shikigami, that was at least in the Shanqing realm. However, it was impossible to find a spirit-branded retainer of this level in all of Japan. Mr. Chen, if you have any trouble in Japan, please come to our shrine, Yoko said. We still have some influence. Since they couldn't rope Chen Zhao in immediately, they could go through the emotional route. It would take longer, but it wouldn't be bad for them. Plus, they didn't think that Chen Zhao could become the leader of the Huaxia spiritual world in one day. Chen Zhao maintained his smile and nodded. As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. Since Yoko had expressed her goodwill, since Yoko White had expressed her kindness, even if he didn't have anything to do with them, he didn't have to fall out with them. Chen Zhao, are you staying here tonight? No, Chen Zhao said. My family is at the hotel. I'll go back and accompany them tonight. Okay, I'll send you off, Zhang Tianyi said. Okay. Chen Zhao could feel that Zhang Tianyi had something to say to him. After walking out of the Tokyo Grand Shrine, Zhang Tianyi spoke first. Chen Zhao, you shouldn't have brought your family. What's wrong? I went to the forest of trees in Aoki yesterday. The miasma there is even thicker. Even I can't go in, Zhang Tianyi said. Also, there are demons everywhere in Tokyo. The supernatural incidents are 50% higher than the average in the past 10 years. Chen Zhao frowned. It's already affected the city? Yes, the Sengen Shrine on Mount Fuji has issued a warning to the entire Japan, asking all the spiritualists in Japan to gather to deal with the upcoming serious situation. The unsealing of the Killing Stone this time is likely to be another major event after the leakage of the Myriad Goblin King's demonic aura 20 years ago. You'd better be mentally prepared. Chen Zhao nodded. He had never been careless. That was the legendary Tamamo no Me. By the way, since your family is here, it's best for them to stay in Tokyo Grand Shrine. At least there are enough spiritualists there. Even if there's an emergency, they can deal with in time. If they stay in a hotel and you're not by their side, there's a high chance that something unexpected will happen. Most of the recent supernatural incidents have happened in hotels. It's okay. My people will start coming tomorrow. They're no weaker than the spiritualists in the Tokyo Grand Shrine. Okay, since you're prepared, I won't say anymore. Go back now. If anything happens to the Stone of Slaughter, I'll let you know immediately. Chun Zhao didn't plan on loitering outside. When he returned to the hotel, Chio Kaori happened to be coming out. Mr. Chun, hello. Hello. Chun Zhao nodded. Are you going back now? Yes. Thank you for taking care of my family. Oh, if it's inconvenient for you to go back and forth, you can stay in the hotel. There are many empty rooms here. You can choose from them. My house isn't far from here. Chio Kaori rejected his suggestion. Okay, then goodbye. Chio Kaori had only taken a few steps when she turned around. Mr. Chun, is there anything else? Are you here for business? Sort of. There's been some infectious diseases in Tokyo recently, so if it's not necessary, don't stay here after you're done, Chio Kaori said. You can come with your family some other time. It's not a good time now. Okay, I'll consider your suggestion. Seeing that Chun Zhao didn't take her words seriously, Chio Kaori could only turn around and leave. Chapter 17:03. Chun, you're back, Fei Lai greeted when she saw Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao glanced at the corner of the living room. There were more than 20 bags. Some were children's clothes, while others were adult clothes. Is Ginza fun? Not bad. Fei Lai nodded. I'm going to Shinjuku tomorrow. Fei Lai was quite excited about the next day. It was a woman's nature to shop. No one could get rid of that. Have fun. It's a pity I can't be by your side. Go do what you need to do, Fei Lai said. I know you don't like shopping either. Once, Fei Lai had a sudden impulse and accompanied Chun Zhao to buy clothes. Then, Chun Zhao went into a designer store and tried on a set. Then he had the salesperson pack the clothes. From then on, Fei Lai never went shopping with Chun Zhao again. Men would never know the joy of shopping. Oh, tell me where you're going. Tokyo isn't peaceful recently. Got it. Chio Kaori is a spiritualist. If anything happens, stay close to her. Fei Lai didn't expect Chio Kaori to be a spiritualist. Also, a group of people from the association will be arriving tomorrow. You girls will have company then. Compared to Chio Kaori, Chun Zhao trusted the people from the association more. There were also a few young girls in the association. With them shopping with Fei Lai, Chun Zhao was even more relieved. The next day, Portia went to Chun Zhao and Fei Lai's room. Portia glanced at Chun Zhao, who was doing his morning exercise. Fei Lai was feeding Larissa breakfast. Jerlin was sitting beside her and eating too. Portia helped Chun order breakfast. More. Seeing Portia, Fei Lai said, "Come and have breakfast too." "No need," Portia said. "I've already eaten at the hotel's restaurant. Is it enough for 10? "Yes, it's enough," Portia said. 10 is just right. If it's too much, it'll affect his activities. Fei Lai nodded. "It's fine. 10 is just right. If it's too much, it'll affect his activities." Portia was already speechless at Chun Zhao's appetite. In Fei Lai's opinion, it was just right for her man to eat breakfast for 10. "Chun, what's your plan today?" "Gaia's flight will arrive at noon," Chun Zhao said. "I plan to go out for a walk first and then pick them up at the airport. Shall I go with you?" "No need," Chun Zhao said. "Take the kid out to play." "Boss, what about me?" Portia heard that Chun Zhao was going to pick someone up. As Chun Zhao's personal assistant, she obviously had a responsibility. However, she was a little reluctant to miss the opportunity to go shopping in Shinjuku. She was also a woman, and she also had no resistance to shopping. And a woman will have a negative IQ in two situations. One was when they were in love, and the other was when they were shopping. Portia had gone shopping with Fei Lai yesterday. As a result, she was now in huge debt. On a whim, she actually bought a brand that was worth tens of thousands of dollars. By the time she reacted, she had already maxed out her credit card. He also owed Chun Zhao $50,000. Even though Portia had learned her lesson, she still didn't learn her lesson. Of course, she had also reflected on herself last night. He spent the whole night telling himself not to chop off his hands again. Today, he was just going to look around with Fei Lai. He was only going to help her carry the shopping bags, not go shopping. Hey, did you buy this dress at Coco yesterday? It's very pretty. It suits you. Feilai looked at Portia, her eyes shining. Feilai, which pair of shoes do you think I should wear? I couldn't decide for the whole morning. The ones under your feet are good. The two women chatted happily, while Chun Zhao became a complete outsider. He couldn't even get a word in. Of course, he didn't understand what they were talking about either. Clang, clang, clang. Hearing the sound, Portia looked up at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was running wildly on the treadmill. The treadmill was already at its maximum speed. However, as Chun Zhao's step stabilized, his voice also became smoother. In Portia's eyes, Chun Zhao had always been a fitness maniac. This was because every time she saw Chun Zhao, he was almost always working out, running, boxing, and swimming. She had also seen Chun Zhao hit people. However, she had to admit that she was a bit envious of Chun Zhao's family. Even the youngest, Larissa, could swim in the sea. Jerlin's swimming skills were even better than hers. Feilai and Chun Zhao were even better. However, this family had the capital to do so. Even if they did nothing, they wouldn't starve to death. She didn't have the capital. Just then, Chio Kori arrived. Chio Kori glanced at Chun Zhao, who was running wildly on the treadmill. Then she looked away. She was different from extroverted women like Feilai and Portia. Chio Kori was introverted. She had the gentleness and intelligence of an Asian woman. Miss Chio, you're here. Chun, we're going out. Okay, have fun. Feilai and Portia each pushed a stroller out. The bodyguards were waiting for them in the hotel lobby. After breakfast, Chun Zhao also went to the airport. With Tokyo's traffic, it would take at least an hour to get to the airport highway. If there was a city more congested than Huaxia, it would undoubtedly be Tokyo. Chun Zhao had plenty of time, so he didn't need a rush. Suddenly, a girl waved in front of Chun Zhao's car. The girl was dressed like a schoolgirl, the kind of sailor suit that was very characteristic of Japan. Chun Zhao wasn't driving fast, so he still stopped. What's up? Chun Zhao asked in English. The girl froze. Then she asked in choppy English, You aren't Japanese? No, I'm from China. Can you give me a ride? The girl asked shyly. Was she a virgin? Chun Zhao had heard about Japanese specialties. To be honest, the girl was very cute. At least, she fit Chun Zhao's taste. Unfortunately, Chun Zhao still rejected her. Who knew how many guys she'd slept with? She was obviously underage, too. Chun Zhao really wasn't interested in underage girls. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Chun Zhao shook his head. Chun Zhao was about to roll up the window when the girl grabbed his arm. My house is just up ahead. It's not far. It won't take much time. Was she really just hitchhiking? Chun Zhao hesitated. Okay, get in. Alligato. The girl gave a 90-degree bow and ran into the car happily. There's a park up ahead. Chun Zhao's car arrived at the park. Then two non-mainstream guys with baseball bats appeared in front of him. Chun Zhao immediately understood. This wasn't the legendary virgin. It was another famous Japanese specialty, badger jumping. Nine Heavens God King. Chapter 1704. Badger jumping was a popular trick all over the world. It was popular in China too. Of course, the most blatant badger jumping was definitely the Japanese. Usually, a girl would disguise herself as a prostitute and look for middle-aged men. She'd lure the prey to a public place like a park or alley and rob them. Usually, these middle-aged men would be too embarrassed to speak up because of their pride. So, they would just swallow their anger. Moreover, Japan was a country where clubs were legal. So, there were more clubs in Japan than in other countries. Most clubs were involved in the underworld. Basically, when a few young people gathered together, they would dare to form a club. After Chun Zhao parked the car, the girl first opened the door. Then, she took Chun Zhao's car key and ran out of the car. There were more than 10 young people in front and behind. They looked like high school students. Hanada, what do you think? I'm good, right? I tricked another rich guy. The girl said proudly as she ran to the car and stood before a young man with a mohawk hairstyle. Chun Zhao got out of the car and looked around. Apart from them, there was no one else in the park. In a big city like Tokyo, most people would go to the city center. No one would come to a remote park like this. Baka, hashtag percent yen at Hanada. He's a foreigner, the girl said. He doesn't understand you. Foreigner? Hanada and Hiko were stunned. Just then, the girl called out to Chun Zhao, "Big guy, you better hand over $1 million now. Otherwise, I'll have them beat you up and call the police." Chun Zhao had to admit that these people really had a big appetite. Even $1 million wasn't a small amount. Call the police? Chun Zhao couldn't help but laugh. Then call the police. Badger jumping calling the police was the stupidest thing Chun Zhao had ever heard. "I'm underage," the girl shouted. "If the police come, I'll say that you harassed me and you'll go to jail." It seemed like she was very experienced. She didn't have any stage fright. "I don't care," Chun Zhao said nonchalantly. "I have money anyway. I can hire a lawyer." Could such a small trick scare Chun Zhao? What a joke. Chun Zhao could teach them how to behave. Calling them the police could only fool those middle-aged uncles. They were afraid of losing their reputation and being gossiped about. So they had some reservations. Even if the possibility was very small, they did not dare to gamble on the consequences of having their families destroyed. But Chun Zhao was not afraid. There is nothing in the world more stupid than a fairy jumping and calling for the police. "I'll send you to jail," Chun Zhao said with a gentle smile. "Then your parents will know about this. I'll also buy all the news channels so that your pictures and names will be heard all over Japan. Your parents will be ashamed and lose their jobs. In the end, they'll cut all ties with you." But his words were like the words of the devil. The girl shuddered. She already regretted that she had rashly chosen such a prey. As a foreigner, Chun Zhao was clearly not a middle-aged man who could be manipulated by them. "Anada, let's go. This guy said he'll find a lawyer to sue us." The girl had already decided to retreat. Obviously, it was impossible for them to call the police. "Baka, this damn foreigner." Wahiko Hanada cursed angrily. "I must teach him a lesson." Kazuhiko Hanada raised his baseball bat and took 2 steps forward. He threw it at Chun Zhao's head. If this stick had landed on an ordinary person's head, he would have died. That would definitely result in serious injuries and hospitalization. Chun Zhao reached out and grabbed the bat. "Baka!" Kazuhiko Hanada tried to pull the bat, but it didn't budge. Chun Zhao walked up and punched Kazuhiko Hanada's chin, breaking it. Kazuhiko Hanada's mouth was full of blood. He pointed at Chun Zhao and yelled, "Beat him! Beat him to death!" Just then, Chun Zhao's phone rang. Chun Zhao tilted his body slightly and dodged a youth's fist. Chun Zhao kicked it with his knee. The youth clutched his abdomen and fell down. Chun Zhao picked up the phone. "Hello, President. Didn't you say you were going to pick us up? We're already out of the arrival gate, but we don't see you." "I'm teaching a group of hooligans a lesson right now," Chun Zhao said. "I don't have time to go. I'll give you my locator, and you can come over yourself." As Chun Zhao spoke, he dodged another hooligan's attack. He snatched the baseball bat from the hooligan's hand and swung it casually, causing the hooligan to bleed. In a few seconds, half of the hooligans had already fallen to the ground. The remaining hooligans were all panic-stricken. "Run!" The remaining hooligans turned to run without any sense of loyalty. Thud, thud, thud. All the hooligans paused and broke out in a cold sweat. Chun Zhao now had a machine gun in his hand. The girl was also dumbfounded. How could this be? How could this be? How could he have a gun? Chun Zhao looked at the girl with a smile. "Can you translate for me? If anyone dares to run, I'll shoot him full of holes." Actually, he didn't need the girl to translate at all. Both the hooligans on the ground and the ones who'd been planning to run were too scared to move. He said, "If you dare to move, he'll shoot you," the girl said, trembling. All the hooligans wanted to cry, but had no tears. They were actually just high school students. But they'd never thought something like this would happen. In Japan, club culture was very popular. So, they'd formed a club with honor. In the past, they'd done a few deals without any cost. The process had been smooth, and they'd scammed hundreds of thousands of yen each time. But this time, they'd finally run into a ghost. The hunter and the hunted had switched places. This guy actually had a gun, and a machine gun at that. They finally realized the severity of the problem. A while later, Klaus and the others arrived. When the hooligans saw the business class cars, they'd hoped that they were reinforcements. Unfortunately, When the burly Klaus alighted, they immediately realized that these guys weren't reinforcements. Jocelyn and Nash looked at the hooligans curiously. "President, who are they?" "Shove them all into the trunk," Chun Zhao said. "We'll play somewhere else." "President, we don't have much space in the trunk." "It's okay. Even if they die, we'll just dump their bodies." The girl's face was filled with even more fear and despair. These people were real gangsters. They might even be the mafia. They were going to die. They were really going to die this time. These people would definitely kill them all. To Chun Zhao and the others, it was a rare experience to be a gangster once in a while. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.